Good morning, everyone. I call this public hearing of the America250PA Infrastructure Improvements and Projects Committee to order. I'm Kristen Phillips-Hill, State Senator from York County and co-chair of this committee. The purpose of today's hearing is to identify infrastructure and projects that not only highlight each region's history and contributions to our shared history, up to and including the semi-quincentennial in 2026, but also to identify those potential infrastructure investments and projects so that we can showcase Pennsylvania's vital role in the establishment and growth of our great nation in the 250 years since our founding in 1776. This committee was established by legislation as the legislative advisory group to support the work on the larger America250PA organization. We are bipartisan, we are bicameral, and our work has been subdivided into 6 regions of Pennsylvania, each of which is represented by 2 members, one of each party, from the Pennsylvania House and the Pennsylvania Senate, as well as members from the overall leadership of America250PA and ex officio members. We are very excited to be here at our last hearing at Lehigh University. We have to thank them for hosting us in this lovely community room in their Health Science and Technology building. We're very grateful for their willingness to share this beautiful space. And with that, I'd like to introduce my co-chair, Representative Jared Solomon from Philadelphia, for some opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Senator. I've always wanted to be on Shark Tank, and this is the closest I think I will ever get. The people on this panel are not nearly as good looking, but I'm sorry. No, maybe some people think that we are better looking than the people on Shark Tank. Sorry, I speak for myself.
Speak for yourself.
I speak for myself. Yes. But it's great to be here. Thank you for hosting us. And this, working with the Senator, this is just on these tours, has been really inspirational work. We've heard proposals that really try and re-envision and rework counties across the Commonwealth to say, by 2026, what do we want to look like? What infrastructure investments do we want? Taking into account the county's past, present, and future. And so we look forward to hearing your proposals. It's really good to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Jared. With that, I'd like to also welcome Cassandra Coleman. She is the Executive Director of America250PA for some opening remarks and to share process.
Sure. So thank you, Senator. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. As the Senator mentioned, this is our 12th of 12 hearings. It has been amazing to travel across the Commonwealth, and honestly, it's wonderful to see the work that all of you do and all of your colleagues across the Commonwealth do. So as the Senator mentioned, we are the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's commission that is charged with planning and coordinating all of the programming projects and events around the 250th anniversary, so that every Pennsylvanian in every county can be part of these celebrations and commemorations. So we're just so thrilled to be here. We encourage you to go to America250PA.org to see what programming and projects are available in your regions and in your counties. I do want to just quickly give a shout out to one of our America250PA advisory members, Marat Gazelle, is here. And also our county advisory member, Fadia Halma, is also here. I think she might be out in the lobby. And we do have a number of our nonprofit partners in this room as well. So just for the hearing process today, you will be introduced by one of our co-chairs. We ask you to please bring your table tent with your name up to the testifier table. At that point, you will have 5 minutes to deliver your testimony. At 30 seconds remaining, you will hear the bell. We ask you to finish your thought, your sentence, your testimony at that time. At the 5 minutes, you'll hear the bell again. And again, we ask you at that point to please, there's a lot of testimonies today. We want to be cognizant of everybody's time. If you go over 15 seconds beyond that, the bell will continue. So So again, I think we are ready. One final note, just after you're done testifying, it will be a few hours that will be here today. You do not have to stay unless you choose. So feel free in between testifiers, if you need to leave, feel free to do so after you deliver your testimony. Thank you.
I would just like to note that one of our former colleagues, Senator Dinniman, is with us here today. Welcome, Senator Dinniman. And yep. And with that, I would like to turn it over to my colleagues for introductions, beginning to my left with the good senator from Bucks County.
I'm Steve Sanaciro, and I represent the 10th District in the State Senate, which is entirely in Bucks County, just south of here, as far north as Plumstead Township, all the way down to Bristol. So I have a good stretch of the Delaware River, including the Delaware Canal, which is going to be one of the topics of our discussion this morning. It's a pleasure to be on this committee. It's obviously a very important task for us as we head toward this milestone in our country's history, and I'm grateful for the work that all of our colleagues and staff has done so far, and I look forward to participating in this hearing today. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kerry Bettinghoff from up in Center County. We happen to have a little university up there known as Penn State University. Cheer loud for us this weekend. I live in a little town of Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, which is actually home to 5 Pennsylvania's past governors, of which we're quite proud of and have been intricate within this, and appreciate all the testifiers' comments. It's been very educational. And thank you to the 2 chairs.
If we can go down and begin at all the way to the right, I know we have Representative Gatos, who is the House Republican appointee to the America250PA Commission, and one of her House colleagues. I am grateful that you are all here today. If you'd like to begin with introductions, we'd appreciate it.
State Representative Valerie Gatos. My district is the 44th district out in the Pittsburgh airport area, and as was mentioned, I'm the House appointee to the America250 Commission, and I'm absolutely excited to celebrate what's best of Pennsylvania.
Good morning, Representative Dave Mattson. I have the pleasure of representing the 104th Legislative District, which encompasses South Harrisburg and some of the surrounding municipalities. Super excited to be here and hear the testimony and support this project. Thank you for having me.
Senator Lisa Boscola, 18th Senatorial District, right here, Lehigh University. So I am so proud that the committee came here to hear the testimony. I also would like to acknowledge that Connor Kapoor is here from Nick Miller's office. Nick Miller and I work together on a lot of things for the Lehigh Valley. So we're both proud to be supportive of practically every project that's coming before us.
Senator Sharif Street, coming to you from the 3rd District in the heart of the city of brotherly love.
Well, with those introductions completed, thank you to all the members and staff who are here with us today. We will begin testimony, and our first testifier, and I will apologize if I do not do justice to your last name, is John Mandreka, Region Manager, Montgomery County PTHS. Thank you for being here, and please begin with your testimony when you are ready.
All right. I would like to thank Executive Director Coleman and the other members of the IIPC for inviting us here today and providing an opportunity to discuss our proposal for a legacy project grant. I'm the Region 3 Manager for Parks, Trails, and Historic Sites in Montgomery County, accompanied by David Clifford, our Parks Administrator. Currently, our department owns and operates 8 parks, 5 historic sites, natural areas, and an increasing number of trails and trail connections. Peter Wentz Farmstead is a 90-acre historic farm in Worcester Township. Peter Wentz Farmstead offers a unique experience for all to enjoy. The public can learn about life on the farm in the 18th century watch the oxen pull a cart, learn about George Washington and the Continental Army, feed the chickens, or play with the lambs. We are in the construction phase of an observation platform, which will be an attraction for nature lovers who enjoy the hiking trails around the site. More importantly, the National Park Service has listed Peter Wentz Farmstead as a National Underground Railroad to Freedom site. Why did we submit this proposal? Currently, the Peter Wentz Farmstead sits off a back road, which creates confusion for first-time visitors. The entrance brings you to our parking area with buildings in a distance. We have updated signage as well as added an audio tour to help guide users away from a bad first impression. Luckily, the visitor experience is worth the confusion. The visitor center will be located next to the parking area featured in Exhibit A. This will eliminate confusion as well as allow an area for people to gather before they tour the farmstead. Vicki handed out brochures. If you would flip in the brochure that's up on you, and if you will look at the location of the visitor center, it's on the brochure. And Dave has a larger presentation of it. So you can see you would enter off a sheer road, go to the parking area, there's a hedgerow of trees, and then you overlook the historic site. So that's where the visitor center will be located. The visitor center will replace the current office space and visitor center, which is a modified chicken coop. The visitor center will expand our accommodations for large school groups and will act as a safe space during inclement weather. Currently, we have to cancel our school programs. As Worcester Township and DCNR work to extend the Zacharias Creek Trail, Peter Wentz Farmstead's Visitor Center will become a destination along the way. What should the Visitor Center include? We've drawn up a design RFP, which is Exhibit B, request for proposal. It highlights everything that we would want, and instead of printing 15 pages out and put it up on you, I'm just going to take a couple of key facts and speak on that. The structure will provide space for visitor orientation, office and storage space, and provide exterior connections to spaces used for parking, special events, instruction, and trails. The new facility should be a single-floor structure with ADA access on a concrete slab, have a clearly defined entrance with a covered walkway, have full IT compatibility, provide public restrooms and a utility closet, take green energy into consideration, easy ADA access from the parking area, an area to gather groups prior to tours, site visits, and events, orientation displays and video for the site, a space for portable stations for an interactive educational experience. It should include a rotating history exhibit as well as environmental education components. This area will also be used as a pop-up museum shop during events. This area will be used as a safe space for the elements for school-age programs. The open space can be used for indoor programming such as candlelight and canning and candle making. A flexible kitchen space should be included, including a refrigerator for student lunches, ample access to electrical outlets, robust ventilation, and easy access to outdoor space. It should include a small meeting space or conference room and include a washer, dryer, iron area for period clothing. Some of the key focus areas or programs and features for America250PA of Peter Wentz Farmstead would be agriculture. Is it historic working farm? Diversity. We have programs featuring Jack, who was an enslaved individual who lived on the Peter Wentz Farmstead through 1766 to 1799. It also would participate in Juneteenth celebrations. Education innovation. We are constantly expanding our educational programs, and we would be able to have rotating historic exhibits as well. Health and wellness. Peter Wentz Farmstead has nature trails, which include walking, biking, snowshoeing, and cross-country skiing in the wintertime. History and preservation. Some of our highlighted programs are sheep shearing, candlelight, and also George Washington and the Continental Army. It focused on nature, bird walks, full moon walks, owl prowls, and tourism, trail connections, and ADA accessibility. If you look at Exhibit C, this photo is from the bicentennial celebration in 1976, when Montgomery County debuted the Peter Wentz Farmstead. They say a photograph can tell 1,000 words. Some will focus on the history of the historic house, George Washington, the land, the animals, and culture, while others will focus on nature and the trails. Each visitor has had a rewarding but unique experience. To me, the most powerful detail in this photo is that we have a chance 50 years later to recreate the same photo during the visitor center. In my personal opinion, being able to preserve history and expand educational possibilities 250 years later is why the America250PA campaign began. Thank you for this opportunity to present our legacy project.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Members, questions? Representative Solomon.
Thank you so much. The specific programming you said would be located in the new facility. What specific 250 programming do you envision to be in that building?
So I think with the opportunity to, if we get the RFP off the ground within the next year or so, and we're able to build the visitor center, we can have the ribbon cutting within the visitor center in the same way that we did the bicentennial for the farmstead. So as we're able to grow on the capacity of educational program, the visitor center will allow us to take the grant funded project and continue to expand our mission. Right now, we're limited to a dilapidated office building that was a modified chicken coop. And we're at the point now where we're getting more school age groups. COVID really helped us with having homeschoolers. We're bringing Title I schools out to us and busing them, but the problem is, once we get to the point of reaching capacity, there's nowhere to go with people, and we have to cancel a lot of that. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any further questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you. And 5 minutes goes quick. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Claire Wildermuth Sadler, Executive Director of the Delaware and Lehigh National Heritage Corridor, Incorporated. And Ms. Sadler, you may proceed when you are ready.
Let's see if I can do this.
Yeah, we can pass them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's make sure that's on. Thank you to this committee and America250PA staff for organizing this process and inviting us to testify today. I am Claire Sadler, Executive Director for the Delaware and Lehigh National Heritage Corridor, or DLNHC, one of the first national heritage areas designated by Congress over 3 decades ago. I am here to request your support to develop some of the final miles of DNL Trail, thereby connecting 165 miles of history. Our organization is here to preserve, interpret, and leverage the nationally significant history of canals and railroads carrying coal and iron and other goods between Wilkes-Barre and Bristol, spurring the American Industrial Revolution right here in the Valley. Our best-known initiatives are the National Canal Museum and the Mule-Drawn Canal Boat in Easton, and the DNL Trail, which adaptively reuses the historic towpaths and rail corridors to connect communities large and small to heritage, recreation, nature, and wellness opportunities. The DNL Trail links multiple sites that have already testified to this committee, like the Iron Temple in Wilkes-Barre, Asa Packer Mansion in Jim Thorpe, Bicentennial Park in East Allen Township, historic Bethlehem, and the city of Easton, where the third reading of the Declaration of Independence took place a few blocks from the current trail. This fact alone, I think, is a testament to how our project connects to the semi-quincentennial and to a lot of history in the Commonwealth and in the United States. When complete, the DNL Trail will be the longest multi-use trail in Pennsylvania, and we'd appreciate your help to be able to celebrate that reality in 2026. You'll see in the Gantt chart provided that the trail development timeline can be very slow if project funds come in $250,000 at a time, and each stage requires new funding applications and sometimes long waiting periods. We currently have 138 miles of open DNL Trail as we work to exceed 165 miles, touching 54 municipalities across 5 counties. Generally, we are down to the Lehigh Valley Gap, shown in the middle, and the Luzerne County Gap being discussed today. Last November, we were blessed with the dedication of $7 million toward the Lehigh Valley Gap, which significantly reduces the development timeline, so we are on track to have one route through the Lehigh Valley constructed by 2026, which will be less than 1.5 miles from the Liberty Bell Museum as well. With your help, we can fast-track the Luzerne County Gap also. We have a strong record of community partnerships to plan, develop, and steward significant trail infrastructure projects like the Mansion House pedestrian bridge opened in 2019 across the Lehigh River in Jim Thorpe. We are also very in tune with the multiple phases of trail development. To connect the DNL Trail from Laurel Run Borough to Wilkes-Barre River Commons, we estimate needing an additional $8 million. Our request to the committee is $6 million in IIPC funding that we will leverage toward private foundations and donors, RACP funds, National Park Service, state agencies, and our new 165 fund. For health and wellness, connecting the DNL Trail will increase opportunities for improving physical and mental well-being through exercise, time in nature, and encouraging the pride that residents have in their heritage. DLNHC is committed to fight harder for connecting the DNL Trail in the remaining gaps that tend to have greater disadvantages, like lower household income, lower health ratings, and higher number of zero-car households. We need to connect the trail through Laurel Run, Ashley, Hanover Township, and Wilkes-Barre for so many benefits. Not only will the project create short-term construction jobs, but it will also result in opportunities for active transportation in and around the city, improve surrounding property values, increase quality of life, and of course increase jobs and income for outdoor recreation and heritage tourism that will be recognized across the full 5 counties. Our last 2 economic impact studies reported that our 5-county corridor had significant increases in overall economic impact, jobs supported, and tax revenue generated from 2012 to 2017 reports. We expect these numbers are much higher now because more trail sections are open. DLNHC has increased our programs and grant-making opportunities, and many new people discovered the trail during the pandemic. With each new trails connection, the number of out-of-state calls we get for multi-day bike trip planning increases, and visitors from across the country are asking us, what is the timeline for connecting Wilkes-Barre to Bristol? We want the DNL Trail open and accessible to everyone so that it can fill the America250PA press release call for places to welcome the rest of the nation and the world to Pennsylvania. We hope that our project can solidify the place of the DNL Trail in the heritage, recreation, environmental, and economic landscape for future Pennsylvanians and connect the unique histories of each small borough, township, and city to equitably spread the positive impact of an infrastructure investment from Wilkes-Barre to Bristol with ripples beyond that in geography and generations. Thank you for your consideration, and we welcome questions.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We have certainly witnessed that the outdoor economy is growing and thriving here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you for your contributions to it. Members, questions? Representative Benninghoff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, excellent testimony and timely. I just have one quick question. It's obviously I'm looking at some photographs here of the. Is most of this construction pretty similar along the trail, the wooden deck and the things?
The photo you're seeing there is the Nesquehoning trestle just north of Jim Thorpe. So no, most of it is constructed on, it's all crushed stone, canal towpath, or former rail bed. We do have a few paved sections, but you're seeing a section that is actually a trestle, an old rail trestle across a river there.
Okay, because that kind of answers the question I was going to ask, and that is, what do you do for maintenance costs? It's one thing to build these projects, but how do we sustain them and keep them up?
Of course, yeah. That is one thing we've been starting to work on. We actually have another map that we track our maintenance projects, working with the landowners. We do not own any section of the DNL Trail. We work with 35 different landowners as our ownership council, supporting them with, we have some grant-making opportunities we can provide for resurfacing sections through National Park Service or state funding. And we also have begun the 165 fund, which is to gather private funding to always have for those emergencies. Hopefully we don't get as many as the Delaware Canal washouts that we've dealt with, but for those things looking forward to make sure that we can keep the trail in good condition once it's all built.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Sanacero.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't so much have a question as just a comment. I appreciate working with the Delaware and Lehigh National Heritage Corridor, and I'm happy to be supportive of the request. As you noted, a large part of it is the Delaware Canal towpath, and we'll be hearing about that again in later testimony today. That, of course, is owned by the state, and the DCNR is the state agency that's responsible. These investments are really important for the reasons you mentioned, Madam Chair, because of outdoor recreational activity. but also because of the critically important impact it has on our history. And as was mentioned earlier, there are many spots along this path, including, which we'll also be hearing about later, the Washington Crossing National Historic Park. So it's important that we maintain these places for future generations. And so I'm grateful for the testimony today.
Thank you. Any further questions from members? We thank you very much for your testimony today. Our next testifier today is Anna Maria Glisson. She is the Secretary and Treasurer of the Marcus Hook Preservation Society. And when you are ready, we welcome your testimony.
Sorry about that. On. Thank you for this opportunity. The town of Marcus Hook was settled by the Swedes in the 1640s and officially incorporated in 1892 as the cornerstone of Pennsylvania. Our town has an incredibly rich historical story, and it behooves us to share with all generations the historic treasures that are within this community. As our mission states in part, to care for and preserve the historic Plank House, which is on the National Register of Historic Places and has a potentially significant economic impact on Marcus Hook and the surrounding towns, as well as the entire Delaware County. The Plank House is situated in the historic core of this 3-century-old riverside town, approximately 800 feet from the present-day bank of the Delaware River along the southeastern edge of Pennsylvania. The borough contains areas of residential and commercial development. However, it is also home to massive oil refinery complexes just blocks away from the Plank House. With the restoration of the Plank House and construction of the Visitor Center, many jobs will be created from historic architects and engineers such as Daniel T. Campbell, Shirley Johnson of Furlow Associates, Graydell and Associates, contractors and builders, 18th Century Restoration, Inc., master carpenters, skilled laborers, masons, plumbers, electricians, and local hardwood and lumber company, Alan McIlvaine, who has previously provided the cypress and Douglas fir woods for our ongoing restoration efforts. The first and primary goal is to construct a conditions assessment of the existing Plank House. The secondary goal would be to design an addition to the west side of the Plank House, reconstructing the former counting room as first designated by William Penn in 1701. In conjunction with the restoration construction project, making it a barrier-free interpretive center for those that are unable to enter the Plank House. Restoring the Plank House would introduce visitors to the historic significance of Marcus Hook's connection to the W3R Washington-Rochambeau National Historic Trail that runs through Marcus Hook. The Revolutionary Soldier encampment was at the site of Judge Richard Riley's house and consisted not only of militia but cattle, sheep, horses, cooks, cattle keepers, etc. By restoring the Plank House to museum quality, an iconic historical treasure will attract tourism and visitors to the Plank House and riverfront area of Marcus Hook, where General George Washington and Rochambeau stood on the pier of what is now Huber's Launch, gazing hopefully at the Delaware River. The Plank House provides a first-hand look at history as it began to unfold over 300 years ago. With the completion of the Plank House and Visitor Center, which would be ADA compliant, tourism would increase and bring much-needed revitalization to the town of Marcus Hook. This project would be the legacy of not just the Marcus Hook Preservation Society, but to the entire town of Marcus Hook and surrounding boroughs such as Linwood, Traynor, and Boothwyn, as well as the county and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Artifacts Library, currently on the grounds of the Plank House, is a state-of-the-art teaching center and is filled with over 30,000 artifacts, all of which have been found on site. Professors from Temple University, Westchester University, University of Delaware, and most recently Millersville University in 2022 were on hand for several years, working hand in hand with volunteers each weekend, as evidenced by our visitors log. The general scope of the project includes securing the structure by installing interior and exterior scaffolding to secure the building while preparing or replacing deteriorated planks, siding the exterior with cypress siding, installation of new period windows and doors, reconstructing the beehive oven, hearth, and mantel in the kitchen, refurbishing the living room and upstairs fireplaces. Since there are currently no bathroom facilities in the Plank House, the adjoining visitor center would provide ADA facilities, viewing room, and upstairs office space and storage. All heating and air quality controls would be added from the visitor center into the Plank House to maintain the integrity of the Plank House Museum. Once all the exterior and interior work is completed, the house would be fitted with period furnishings replicating life in the 18th century. Since we have already finished the roof and chimney, and the south wall of the Plank House has been completely restored, this project, while vast in scope, can be completed on a timely schedule once funding is secured. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Members, questions? Representative Benninghoff.
One quick question, just for clarification. The title Plank House is not necessarily the Plank family or something. It's actually the style of the construction.
That is correct. It's made from ship's planks, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Also known as Blackbeard's Mistress's House. Thank
That certainly makes it very interesting. Thank you so much for your testimony today. Next up, we have the Honorable Andrew Dinneman and Dr. Larissa Hawkins from Lincoln University Foundation of Pennsylvania. Thank you for being here, and we welcome your testimony.
Well, first, good morning, and it's good to see many people who I served with in the legislature. Dr. Hawkins, I'll be doing the presentation. Dr. Hawkins will be answering many of the questions. Dr. Hawkins just joined us at Lincoln as director of the Center for the Study of the Underground Railroad, and we're very excited and happy that you're now a faculty member at Lincoln. Our topic is the restoration of Hosanna Church, also known as the Free African Meeting House. To understand the importance of Hosanna, we need to understand a bit of the history of a very compact area. And there's three parts to this history. There's the New London Academy, there's Hinsonville, which was a free black community, and there's Lincoln University. Now, New London Academy was about 4 minutes from Lincoln, and it was the first public school in Pennsylvania. And it was the place where 3 signers of the Declaration of Independence received their education. And in fact, one of those signers, Thomas McCain, was born in New London Township and grew up there and was the second governor of Pennsylvania. Hinsonville was a free black community 6 miles from where slavery existed on the Maryland-Delaware line. And Hinsonville was an important free black community, and the Free African Meeting House organizes a church in 1843. Hinsonville established in 1830, and what occurred was Hosanna Church was the center for this community, and it also was a stop on the Underground Railroad. All of the great abolitionists came to Hosanna to speak. Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, and others. Now, Lincoln University itself actually was in part founded by the residents of Hinsonville, who raised money and worked with a white Presbyterian minister to establish Lincoln in 1854. Just as New London Academy was the first public school, Lincoln University is the first black university in the United States. Now, Lincoln, you cannot understand American history or race relations without understanding Lincoln. So many famous people went to Lincoln. Thurgood Marshall, the poet Langston Hughes, The president, by the way, of 2 African countries are Lincoln graduates, the president of Ghana and the president of Nigeria. In addition, many prominent whites came to Lincoln to support the university. Among them was Albert Einstein, who received an honorary degree and came to Lincoln in 1947 to give a speech in support of the Declaration of Independence and the civil rights of people of color within this nation. Now, understanding all of that, what would the restoration do? The restoration would create a meeting house, which has seen so many of this in an area that saw the struggles of our nation for freedom and justice, going back to the Declaration of Independence and going back to Governor McCain. And it would also provide a place to understand the free black community in Pennsylvania before the Civil War, to further understand the Underground Railroad and the struggle for freedom. It also opens up not just this area of Chester County, but also Lancaster, southern Lancaster and southern York County, which had tremendous numbers of people cross over from slavery to freedom here in Pennsylvania. Now, also let me add that you cannot understand, as I said, race without understanding Lincoln University and its history. Now, what all of this means, and I like to read this part if I can, and as I get older, I require glasses, if I may, and it says, and what I'm trying to tell you now is that what we're doing represents the 4 pillars of 2026 here in Pennsylvania: to educate, preserve, innovate, and celebrate. It has everything, if you know what I'm saying, going back to the Revolution. And finally, our project surely meets the legislative funding selections and requirements. That it be a legacy project that welcomes A250 Pennsylvania visitors to Pennsylvania because it's going to connect directly to the Harriet Tubman Byway, underground byway, which goes through Maryland and Delaware, and provide an entrance to southeastern Pennsylvania and to central Pennsylvania for tourists. It is also adjacent to the largest area of open space that the Commonwealth has contributed to on the Route 95 corridor, and it will serve as an information center for both. And it will be a lasting legacy of freedom for future generations of Pennsylvanians. So I thank you, and we are, both Dr. Hawkins and I are welcome for comments.
Senator, thank you so much for your testimony today. Always appreciated your passion, not only for your district, but for history, and it's good to see you putting your skills to good use after your legislative career. So thank you for what you are doing.
I'm here to say there's actually life after the legislature, after 4 terms
we
in the
appreciate
Senate.
that.
And by the way, congratulations, Senator, on the money you got for the Underground Railroad and its restoration in York County at a particular spot on the Underground Railroad.
We are very fortunate to be able to preserve that history and save it from being lost to future generations. I thank you very much for that. Members, questions? Representative Gatos.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you for making your presentation. These projects are all very worthy, without a doubt, and particularly this is such a part of our history. I see here it says the private outside funding, no. Do you have private outside funding?
What will occur is once the project is approved, we will use our alumni network and also the Historic Preservation Network in Chester County to get funding, additional funding. It's hard to ask people to fund something that if they don't know it's going to be yet. So the basic funding we need comes through the state, and then the second, to add to its to complement its value and its to the citizenry, we will be searching out additional funding.
Thank you. As we all know, that there's just so many projects that we're being presented with, and it's always nice to see when you've got both public-private partnerships working together to present these. So thank you.
The Underground Railroad Center does have an organization, a local organization in the Chester County area, Square Roots Collective, that is partnering with us on the Underground Railroad project already. And so they've already committed funds to that. And so we do expect that that's going to carry over to this. Again, since it's a future project that is inert at the moment, we expect that the funds will activate as soon as that is looped into the Underground Railroad Center.
Terrific.
So.
Dr.
Thank you.
Hawkins is right. That's DCNR funding, by the way, which $500,000 worth, which went through Lincoln University for an Underground Railroad organization that is trying to take the whole southern border of Pennsylvania. And we are grateful for that funding, which will also contribute to this. Thank you. You know this whole story. You just got here. This is wonderful.
Senator Street.
Senator Dinniman, Dr. Hawkins, just wanted to thank you for the great presentation. And look, I think the history of Lincoln University and its significance not only to Chester County, but to really American history, and more especially African American history, is incredibly important. And I thank you for the presentation. Look forward to working with you on the project.
Well, we do appreciate that. And by the way, the work at Lincoln is been bipartisan. Representative Lawrence, who Mr. Benninghoff knows, had been a former member of the Lincoln Board and will be working very closely with us on this project.
Thank you. And I would just add that I think it's an opportunity to re-narrate, which is to say that African American history is American history and that we were present at the founding. And so I think Hosanna Church represents a moment to make that clear, that it's not an add-on to history, that we are part of the history of liberation and from fugitivity to freedom in this country. So thank you for hearing us out.
And what will occur is, the idea is that with the restoration, Hosanna would be a place not only to learn of the history of the Declaration of Independence, to learn of African American history and its role both in the Declaration and in the antebellum period before the Civil War, its role as a key stop in the Underground Railroad, but also a place where all of us can understand the meaning of the Declaration of Independence today. Remember that it is the obligation of each generation of Americans to look at the Declaration and to understand it not only in terms of the past, but in terms of the present as well. And Dr. Hawkins and I are committed to making sure that that takes place. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Sanacero.
Just a quick congratulations to Dr. Hawkins.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're delighted Dr. Hawkins is at Lincoln, and we know that this will make this center even more successful.
Thank you so much for hearing us today.
Thank you very much. Our next testifier today, and I will apologize if I mispronounce your name, is Vafi Jabata, CEO, Akana, and Dr. Gaston Mangulu. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here today, and please proceed with your testimony when you are ready.
Good morning, panel members, and I'm honored that you were kind enough to invite us to this presentation. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the African Cultural Alliance. I'm here with Dr. Mangulu, who is project consultant on all of what to do, including the very important project that is taking Philadelphia by storm, the African Town Project. One of our main goal is to transform Southwest Philadelphia, which has a population of 180,000 people, but for very little services and opportunities. So we are here today to advocate for two major projects. our indoor African diaspora marketplace. As you know, Philadelphia is positioned to host the World Cup and other international events that are coming to Pennsylvania. So the diaspora marketplace is one of those things that will be a central tourism attraction point for Philadelphia. We are also asking you to consider us in this request for an innovation and technology center, which will be a job creation hub for that very, very neglected community. The project is valued at $7.5 million, and we are asking the commission to generously approve $2.5 million with additional funding from the city of Philadelphia and fundraising effort within Akana. We will be able to achieve this goal. When doing construction, the project will create 98 jobs. And post-construction, it will provide 794 jobs. Estimated spending on goods and services will be $2.5 million. Estimated revenue from services will be $4.5 million, and economic activity through tourism and other effort would be at $12.8 million. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity to change Philadelphia's neglected community. Southwest Philadelphia has been long neglected. Africa Town is positioned to change that paradigm. Thank you for your opportunity.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Members, questions? Senator Street.
Well, want to thank you for your work on Africa Town and generally with the African Cultural Alliance of North America. Can you talk a little bit about the scope of how many folks visit the southeastern Pennsylvania from the African diaspora on an annual basis? And because I think it would give folks an extent of how significant this could be from a tourism standpoint. My understanding, there are over 100,000 African immigrants living in the southwest Philadelphia area. If you count the portions of Delaware County that border it, what do you think the tourism population is?
I mean, the tourism population, it's over 100,000 people per year that come to Southwest Philly. And some of the things that we have been doing as part of Africa Town, it's also really drive much more momentum. We had like an African Restaurant Week that took place recently. We're going to have 2 per year. We are working with Visit Philadelphia to make sure that Africa Town becomes a destination place for the African diaspora. In fact, when somebody comes to Philadelphia, everyone wants to go to the Reading Terminal, correct? It's a historical place. The African marketplace is going to be the same thing in Southwest Philadelphia. So when you come in Philadelphia, you want to experience African food, African culture, that's going to be the place. And it's going to be self-sustained because you're going to have around 50 businesses permanently there, including an Africa Town farmers market every week. So it's really all about sustainability also.
Yeah, follow-up, just want to point out that the connection between sort of this presentation and the preceding one, that it's not dissimilar. It is not coincidental that you have the heads of 2 African countries that were educated at Lincoln University. Lincoln University borders the Delaware County, Chester County area. It borders southwestern Philadelphia, where there is this large African population, and those folks, many of them do end up attending Lincoln University. Hence, you have the presidents of 2 African countries who are Lincoln grads. So there is some connection between the projects.
And let me just add that specifically when this whole Africa Town concept was started, we census, and there are 133 African nations that are represented in that area. And a total population of African immigrants that have migrated to that area is 130,000 African immigrants that have located in Delaware County and including Philadelphia County, Southwest Philadelphia as well. But one of the main reasons why this project is very important is that it just doesn't provide for African immigrant and Caribbean immigrant, but it also incorporates all of the residents, including African American, who have long resided in that area, and this project is welcoming to all of the community members.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Street. Any further questions from members? Representative Benninghoff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for your testimony. Very interesting. I see you have two projects. One's the acquisition of Santora Bank building. Hopefully they'll leave you lots of money in there to help get you started. My question is in the markets. I think one of you said you're hoping to have 50 different businesses in there. Is it the hope, that's going to be in an old theater, that the rent that these businesses would pay to you would help to sustain the continued restoration and sustainability of this facility?
Yes, the rent is going to be part of the income, but also a lot of activity that will be generated will make sure that those people can stay there and pay the rent. So we are really linking tourism plus revenue generation through the rent. But also, through the Workforce Development Program, we want to create a lot of local entrepreneurs in the area. Just for a fact, we have around 700 businesses in Southwest Philadelphia generating around $500 million revenue per year. So we know that there's a potential, and through the work that Akana has been doing for the last 10 years, they have created around 2,000 new jobs just through some of the programs that they're providing, together with the city and some of the funders, that are providing grant into the city. So we're very confident that this model will sustain what you're trying to do.
And really quickly, if I may, Madam Chair, what is the, what's the word I want? What is the sustainability of this theater currently? Is it in use? Does it need a lot of restoration? Does it need modernized as far as?
It's been abandoned for over 15 to 20 years.
Okay.
And currently, it's one of the I call it, for the community, and this project will restore it and make it usable and viable, and with all the other amenities, including jobs and the attraction of tourism to the community.
Well, they're always kind of neat structures too, but thank you.
Yeah, it's a unique structure as well.
If you allow, as you talk about tourism, you mentioned the work we're doing with Visit Philadelphia, but we're also working with Soccer 2026. And some of the key facts they gave us is you're going to have 500,000 people in Philadelphia for 26 days. 70% of those people will not be going to the stadium. We do have 40-plus countries in the World Cup. At least 10 are going to be from African diaspora descent. Where are they going to go? They need a place to go. They need a watch party. They need a place where they can entertain. And that's really why we're looking forward to your help to make sure that we can achieve it by 2026.
Thank you very much for that description. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your testimony today. We very much appreciate it. Next up, we have Gina Barrett. She is the Delaware County Director of Planning, and Andrew Hamilton, September 11th, National Memorial Trail Board Chair, Delaware County Planning Department. We welcome your testimony when you are ready.
Thank you to America250PA and members of the Pennsylvania Legislature for this opportunity to share our project with you. I'm here with Andy Hamilton, the September 11th National Memorial Trail Board member who will help, Board Chair, I should say, who will help answer questions. So our project is the Trail of History in Delaware County, and we are requesting $5.8 million to finalize this project by 2026. The Trail of History in Delaware County contains two important trails, both honoring those who gave their lives upholding American values of freedom and democracy. The historic Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route and the September 11th National Memorial Trail. The Trail of History in Delaware County contains these, as well as a dense web of American history and our industrial heritage. We've included some highlights on the map showing the site of William Penn's first landing, the 1724 courthouse, Baldwin Locomotives, Sun Shipbuilding, and more. The trail is also part of the East Coast Greenway. Delaware County is requesting $5.8 million towards our efforts to implement two top priorities for this trail. First, to build a key section of trail in the city of Chester, and the second, to complete a cohesive design plan for the entire trail in Delaware County. The first part of our request is to build a key section of the trail in the city of Chester. The city of Chester is a majority minority community, and 30% of residents earn below the federal poverty level. Families located closest to the proposed trail have the highest poverty levels and the lowest incomes. With True Grit, Chester is a city with a long-term plan to provide economic opportunity and a healthy place to live for its residents. At the center of this effort has been the waterfront. Positive results include major industrial employers who now share the river with a popular riverwalk, boat launch, public wharf, casino, and soccer stadium. The area we are seeking to improve already contains the wharf at Rivertown, a mixed-use office and retail project, and Subaru Park Stadium, where the Philadelphia Union recently hosted international soccer superstar Lionel Messi and Inter Miami to a sellout crowd of 18,500 people. The space between these economic drivers is soon to be the Wisfis Bank Sportsplex. It's a 32-acre sports and recreational complex that is expected to bring over 500,000 new annual visits to the city. But the loop trail that is part of the Trail of History in Delaware County and planned to encompass all these crowd producers is unfinished. Our request solves this problem by building a key section of trail called the West 2nd Street Connector. This last leg closes the loop. The benefits are numerous. We are giving visitors easy paths to their destinations in the city of Chester and a better gathering place for the community for biking, walking, and public events that will serve both the residents of Chester and the region. This $4.3 million project has $2 million in hand for construction from a mix of grants and private funding. But there is a $2.3 million funding gap remaining. Once that gap is filled, the project can go to construction and can be complete by 2026. The second part of our request prepares a design plan for the entire Trail of History in Delaware County. The estimated cost is $3.5 million. The trail route is approximately 11 miles long and has local support and investment, demonstrated by several feasibility studies that are completed or are currently ongoing, including one the county is currently undertaking in the city of Chester and Ridley Township. What is needed most is a detailed, comprehensive plan for the entirety of the trail in Delaware County. This is essential for raising federal transportation dollars because many federal programs require fully engineered plans before a project will be considered for funding. The detailed plan will support the work that has already been done and solve complex challenges for the trail, like crossing Interstate 95, traversing the Philadelphia International Airport, and sharing the corridor with heavy truck and rail traffic. If design work is started in 2024, it'll be complete in 2026. This America250PA investment will provide Delaware County and the Commonwealth with the opportunity to highlight nationally registered historic places, sporting and waterfront landmarks, and parks. We're also fortifying a Chester destination to attract new spending in the community and increase local jobs. Lastly, we are providing health and wellness resources to historically disadvantaged communities. The community, economic, and health benefits are woven tightly together in our proposal, and we look forward to answering your questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Members, questions? Representative Benninghoff.
Sorry, I'm the curious cat. Real quickly, I apologize if I missed this. How long was the West 2nd Street connector in length?
It's about 1.8 miles.
Okay, 1.8.
For that section. That'll complete an almost 4-mile trail, the rest of which is either constructed or going to construction in the next year.
And the other question has to do kind of a little more globally. We're all struggling to find workers. If the money is in pocket tomorrow, and I'm impressed with what you already have in hand, do you think there's enough manpower to get these kinds of projects done in that short duration, considering the challenges so many employers have right now trying to find qualified workers?
Absolutely, yes. There's already sections that are in construction, so the timing would lay out that those construction workers could transition to the new section of work.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Members for further questions. Appreciate you being here today and providing this testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Recognize there are many people here who are testifying today. When you are finished, if you could please exit if you would like. Do it in between testifiers. That would be really helpful and we'd appreciate it. Next up to testify is Tom Yencho, Vice President for Communication and Strategic Partnerships, and Heather Lobin Viravong, Vice President for Inclusion and Community Engagement at Ursinus College. Thank you for being here, and please begin with your testimony when you are ready.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Indeed.
All right.
Thank you.
Good morning. Today I stand before you with a profound sense of excitement and gratitude representing the Ursinus College community. Again, my name is Tom Yencho. I'm accompanied here with Heather Lobon Viravong, Vice President for Inclusion and Community Engagement, and together we bring to you a project that embodies the spirit of unity, of heritage, and of wellness. We ask for your enthusiastic support for a legacy project that encompasses two vital aspects of our college identity. First and foremost, we seek to honor the legacy of the federally recognized Delaware Tribe of Indians and the broader Lenape people who once called Collegeville and its entire region their home. Ursinus College rests on ground that carries their history, and we are committed to ensuring that their story is etched across our physical campus. Historically, the Lenape people embodied the principles of the common good, a philosophy that resonates deeply with our own mission and curriculum. In our Algonquin language, Lenape roughly translates to the people, and for generations, these peacemakers presided over disputes and conflicts with neighboring tribes. They were a grandfather tribe, caretakers of this land and of one another. Now, more than ever, their environmental stewardship and love for one another serves as an example for us all. In embracing this legacy, we are proud to introduce the Welcome Home Project, a commitment to raising awareness about the Delaware Tribe of Indians on our campus and within a wider community. Just recently, we marked an historic milestone with the first ever symposium for Indigenous representation at Ursinus. To take this endeavor further, we are seeking your support to help us employ interactive technology and integrate their story along a new campus extension of the Perkiomen Trail, creating a bridge between the past and the present. The Perkiomen Trail extension isn't just an environmentally friendly pathway. It symbolizes our commitment to health and to well-being. In 2022, we proudly became the very first liberal arts signatory of the International Okanagan Charter, solidifying our unwavering commitment to the well-being of every member of our campus community and of Collegeville. To demonstrate this commitment, consider that nearly 75% of all students perceive our campus as non-stigmatizing towards behavioral health concerns. This underscores our dedication to fostering a supportive environment for absolutely everyone on campus, faculty, staff, and students. Our collaborative Commission on Well-Being and our unique Health and Wellness Division, which is unusual in higher education, further exemplify that commitment, as do our efforts in becoming a first-in-the-nation certified recovery-friendly campus. The synergy between our respect for the legacy of the Delaware Tribe of Indians and our emphasis on health initiatives has garnered widespread support. Over 85% of Collegeville residents, along with families throughout the region, express a desire to see Ursinus become an even more integral member of the community. By extending the trail through our campus, we're not only connecting tens of thousands of trail users to downtown Collegeville's reinvigorated Main Street, but we're also driving foot and bicycle traffic to local businesses. This aligns seamlessly with the wishes of our Collegeville residents who, in a resounding 97% majority, yearn to witness further business development and growth on Main Street. Heather and I wish to express our heartfelt gratitude for your time and for your consideration. This legacy infrastructure project we present today is more than just a physical extension. It's a bridge that spans generations. We urge you to stand with us to support the Lenape legacy and to celebrate our commitment to holistic health and well-being. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Members, questions? Senator Street.
I just want to thank you for the work you're doing and recognizing the contributions and the fact that the Lenape people were there. I have roots in the Nanticoke tribe, which is connected to the Lenape, and so just thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next testifier today is Jennifer Martin, Executive Director, Friends of Washington Crossing Park. Welcome, and please begin your testimony when you are ready.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Martin, and I'm the Executive Director for the Friends of Washington Crossing Park. My organization works in partnership with the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to provide educational and historical programs at Washington Crossing Park in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Each year, we offer hundreds of daily tours, over 100 field trips, and public programs that attract thousands of visitors, including 2 large crossing reenactments each December, Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, sheep shearing, and a 4th of July celebration. In 2023, we hosted our first successful Juneteenth program in partnership with the African American Museum of Bucks County. As a Bucks County native and educator for over 15 years, I've seen the powerful impact of educational programs and how they create a sense of pride and community. I've had the opportunity to witness the look on children's faces when they feel excited and connected to our history, and I've been fortunate enough to spend many 4th of July and crossing reenactments with visitors from all over Pennsylvania, all over the country, and all over the world who come to the park to learn about and celebrate American history. General George Washington's crossing of the Delaware Christmas night 1776 is considered to be a turning point in the American Revolution, which makes our site one of the most important places in Pennsylvania to visit and celebrate this important milestone in American history. Currently, our site serves just under 1 million visitors each year. 12,000 of these visitors are ones who attend the annual crossing reenactment, and another 12,000 are students from over 150 local schools. Our sites become a very important resource for teachers looking to enhance their curriculum. The park is already seeing an increase in interest in the semi-quincentennial, and we're anticipating significant growth in visitation leading up to 2026. Our goal leading up to the 250th anniversary is to create a world-class experience which will serve as the capstone event for 2026 and engage a diverse 21st century audience. Our vision when you come to the park on December 25th, 2026 is to provide enhanced educational opportunities which include a new introduction video that tells a more comprehensive and inclusive story of the crossing with subtitles and audio headsets for the vision and hearing impaired, an ADA accessible replica Durham boat designed in partnership with Philadelphia's Independent Seaport Museum that visitors can step into and feel as if they're part of the crossing. New interpretive program presentations that highlight the important contributions of women and Black soldiers during the American Revolution that also provide paid opportunities for reenactors who rarely receive compensation and are an extremely important part of telling the important stories that we hope to share. Additional funding will also allow us to purchase more historically accurate uniforms, arms, and military tents to help us further share these important stories. Funding from America's PA initiative will provide us with an opportunity to extend this important anniversary through the very end of 2026, which will allow us to reach even more visitors. The creation of new staff positions, exhibits, and programs will also live long on after this important anniversary and will allow us to continue to reach and connect with visitors from all over Pennsylvania and all over the world. In addition, increased tourism leading up to 2026 and the influx of visitors that will come to the park in December of 2026 will benefit local businesses that provide recreation, dining, and lodging. Increased visitation will also benefit smaller historic sites who we partner with in our community that are creating smaller programs in anticipation of this important anniversary. We've already begun fundraising to support this important initiative, and we've secured about half of the funding through 2 recent awarded grants from the National Park Service. One to support a research fellow to research and compile the personal histories of Black Americans who participated in and supported the crossing, and the other to complete interior restoration of McConkey's Ferry Inn, where Washington wrote his plans for the crossing and oversaw the operation. With your support, we can ensure that visitors have the greatest opportunity to create the strongest connections and understanding of American history, and we're really honored for the opportunity to serve Pennsylvania with all of you. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. For questions, Senator Sanacero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, first let me acknowledge the Chief of Police of Langhorne Borough, John Katsiba. John, why don't you stand up? John regularly portrays General Washington in the crossings and has done that for a number of years and is on the board of the Friends. How many in this room, including the panel, have been to Washington Crossing State Park? Okay, not enough hands raised. This is the most significant state park in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that has a direct link to the Revolution. No question about it. And if you go there, you will be amazed by what you see, but you'll also recognize that as a state, we need to do a better job. And I want to thank the Friends. I want to thank everyone who's been involved for many years, who have dedicated just a tremendous number of hours every year toward maintaining that park and advocating for it. And I am an enthusiastic supporter of the request, and I humbly ask my fellow colleagues on this committee to do so likewise, because of the historic impact that this place has had on our history. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that if that crossing had not happened, we'd not necessarily be sitting here today in the United States of America. So, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sanacero. We probably all would have lovely British accents. Any further questions for Ms. Martin? Representative Solomon.
It seems like you all are well on your way in terms of planning for 2026, which is great to hear. You mentioned the economic impact for some of these places in Bucks County, Yardley, Newtown, Doylestown. Is there sort of a coordinated effort as you're planning to coordinate with them as you're moving towards 2026?
Sure. So we're very involved with Visit Bucks County, and John, who Steve just mentioned, and I actually sit on the Bucks 250 initiative, like the local county group. So we're really working closely with them, and then also Bucks County Visit Bucks on kind of coordinating efforts. I specifically mentioned some of the smaller sites because a lot of them are doing really great things, but it's not necessarily enough for you to come for like a day or a weekend. So we're trying to create these like extended stay opportunities in partnership with them, and it's been going really well. We actually run a bus tour and partner with some other local sites, and we do have visitors from all over the country. About half of them are people that come for the whole weekend. They'll see us, they'll see the Museum of the American Revolution. So yeah, we're definitely coordinating efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your
Very
testimony.
much.
Our next testifier is William Collins, Principal Simone Collins Landscape Architecture, Delaware Canal 21. And Mr. Collins, you may begin when you are ready.
Honorable committee members, thank you on behalf of Delaware Canal 21. It's a 10-year-old nonprofit organization that's dedicated to restoring the Delaware Canal. The Delaware Canal is a historic infrastructure. In 9 years, it will be 200 years old. And it's got a series of eras. Ben Franklin proposed the canals before the Revolution. In this era. It was privately owned and operated for 99 years, which is extraordinary for a towpath canal, since it was built in 1932, and the railroads were already usurping canal corridors by 1840. So most canals operated for 30 or 40 years. This one operated for 99 years commercially, and then the state acquired it in sections, right here. The state, maybe it was the first Blueway, it was definitely one of the first regional trails. It goes from the dam, that beautiful dam that makes the pool in Lehigh at Easton, all the way down to the seaport in Bristol. And it passes right next to Washington Crossing State Park in the middle. This project is to talk about what has to be the next era of canal management. This application is looking at how do you take care of the water in the canal, because originally it was the road. The water was the road and the towpath was the locomotion for the mules. But and the engineers understood that they needed to manage water. And so this is a stormwater project as much as a trail project, and that is the urgency of this application. Delaware Canal 21 has completed 4 studies in the past 10 years in cooperation with DCNR, DCED, the National Park Service, and William Penn Foundation. This application will aid in the first design and construction project that would be a result of those 4 previous studies. There's 3 elements, and they all are about managing water. There's 2 obstacles that were built during the state ownership period. One's a railroad below Morrisville, the other one's a state highway below Morrisville, and they obstruct the water. Those obstacles prevent water from moving downstream, and they don't enable DCNR the tools to release the water in emergencies when they need it. They've resulted in 3 major floods in Morrisville, which is right across from Trenton, devastating the public pool at Williamson Park. There's nothing that is preventing that from happening again. So over the past 10 years, DC21 has been attempting to build the partnerships that are needed to take this 5th step. They have DCNR money in hand for engineering. An application is in for DCED, and an application will go in to the federal government in September. This application for America250PA will supplement that and allow the partnership between DC21 and DCNR and the other partners to bring the first step of construction to remedy that. There's 3 elements. One is to remove the obstructions. The other one is to fix waste gates that allow the water to be released from the canal when it needs to. And the other one is to install pumps that will put water into the canal to manage it and to help its maintenance. When you take a look at the map in the application, you'll see that the main obstructions are just below Morrisville. The pumps are above to feed water down, and the waste gates surround Morrisville to give DCNR back the original capacity to manage the water the way it needs to as a regional stormwater system. It's not just a trail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collins. Members' questions? Senator Sanacero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Collins, thank you for coming in. I just want to say, aside from the historical significance of the Delaware Canal, which Mr. Collins went through, and which we heard about earlier with respect to the Delaware-Lehigh Trail, and to some extent, too, with respect to the 9/11 Trail, this is really a gem that the state has. It's a unique thing. It's a piece of our history, no less so than the Washington Crossing State Park. But it also presents an opportunity as a stormwater management device that could be very helpful, especially as we see more significant stormwater events occurring in the future. You're all probably aware of the horrible tragedy that took place in Washington Crossing just about a month and a half ago. There is an increasing need for that type of thing. And so from a standpoint of engineering, this is a pretty important project to be done. But I also just want to say that, you know, for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, for all of us, maintaining this canal, maintaining the towpath that is alongside it is incredibly important, which is one of the reasons why I, Senator Boscola, Representative Freeman, and others in the State House and Senate formed the bicameral, bipartisan Delaware Canal Caucus to be advocates for this very special park and very special resource in Pennsylvania. So again, Mr. Collins, thank you for coming today.
In answer to that, imagine 40,000 acres that flow into this system. It's a long canal. It's got 20 tiers, and each one of them have to be operated like a sink. It needs a faucet, water come in, it needs the basin, and it needs to be released. This is what this project can do. It can put those plumbing functions back in for people's safety. And it's specifically focused around Morrisville, which is of greatest need physically, demographically, and economically. It's a project that will remedy past infrastructure obstacles. Thank you.
If you could, there's an awful lot going on in the area in which this canal sits. Can you speak to your thoughts on how you will attract folks to come out and hear this Delaware Canal story?
Yes. The first of 4 projects started in 2014, and it was a vision study that was funded by William Penn Foundation, and it was system-wide. So we had public meetings in Easton and Bristol and in between. And what we found out was that everybody said we want water in the canal. Nobody knew how to do it. So 3 more projects were needed to figure that out. But in every case, whatever the stakeholders were, they said it's our canal, it's one canal, and we want water in it. So DCNR has been a great partner, but it can't do it by itself. This project would have a public engagement portion to it. So the engagement and the pedagogy has to continue. It's at a different level because now, after 4 projects are done, people understand more, and they understand the complexity and the infrastructure remedies that have to be done collectively in this case to get the work done. So public involvement is going to be a continuing process.
Madam Chair, may I add something to that?
Absolutely.
The canal is already a really significant tourist attraction for Pennsylvania. We get a lot of people, not just from across the river in New Jersey, but from other places in the country who come to the canal. You know, on the one end is Easton, which is a historic city itself. You have New Hope with all of its attractions there. You have Washington Crossing State Park. You have Yardley Borough, Morrisville, all the way down to Bristol Borough, which are they all have some impact historically, some significance historically, I should say. But there is a tremendous amount of tourism that already filters into that area, and so it's important for as a economic driver for the state as well.
Right. The greater public, not just the Bucks County public, usually stops south of Yardley. The traffic on the canal through Morrisville, because of the obstructions, is not high. But Marsville is looking at a renaissance, and so is Bristol. And so the obstacles are between those two. And I think that if you, to reach the greater public, you're going to need a campaign. That would be part of it, but I can't say what that would be, except to tell the history of the navigation that will be 200 years old, about 8 years after the 250th anniversary of the country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Benninghoff.
Very quickly, I apologize. For those of us who don't live around here, we're familiar with some different canals throughout Pennsylvania, some in the lower part of my district. I'm probably more curious as Chairman of Transportation. You've mentioned these obstructions. One, I think, is PennDOT. One is also the rail service.
Right.
Can you tell us what these obstructions are? When I'm looking at some of your testimony, you're talking about these devastating floods in 204, 205, 206, and here we are in 2023, and we're still talking about the same obstructions that potentially could cause more flooding. So I'm curious why some of these agencies have not already addressed this.
That's a great question. Thank you for answering.
I try to have one a day.
All right. I've heard a couple from you already, but it is a cluster of problems. And so you can't fix one of these obstructions without the other, because if you remove one obstruction, it just sends the water down a mile and still backs up. So how do you approach that when PennDOT it's not a priority for PennDOT yet. It's not a priority for DCNR yet. It's not a priority for the railroad. And that was the basis for DC 21's creation, is how do we approach these complex projects and be a catalyst to bring the partners together. And it's been successful to this point to actually unravel those engineering issues. And so this project is intended to do the preliminary engineering so that we know the shapes of the projects. We know what the programs are. We know what the costs are. And then to develop those parts of the project, like the wastegates or the pumps, immediately.
As a nuts and bolts guy, I got to drill down just a little bit here. For those that are listening, are we talking about old bridge abutments? Are we talking about stone bars? Are we talking about, what are the actual obstructions that are?
This is great. This is really great.
We did not know each other before this meeting.
The DNL has been the partner with DC 21 for 2 of those projects. And the DNL was one of the partners that put a tube for the trail through the railroad obstruction. But that doesn't happen on Tyburn Road. And neither one of those obstructions have a culvert for the water. So when you try to pass a prism full of water that's 40 feet wide through a 5-foot culvert, it's going to back up. That's the issue. Now, the studies have determined alternatives to put into new culverts, but those haven't been negotiated. Those haven't been final costed at a preliminary engineering stage, and that's what all the partners need before they can be convinced that they can be partners to remedy this. And the phasing of these water obstructions has to be coordinated.
Lastly, Madam Chair, I mean, the money that must have been spent in the cleanup and the damage and new construction and for all the losses in 04, 05, 06 would beg to ask, would that money been better spent proactively prior to that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Mr. Collins, thank you for your testimony here today.
Thank you.
Our next testifier today is Louis King, President and CEO of OIC of America. Welcome, Mr. King, and please proceed with your testimony when you are ready.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Louis J. King, and I'm the President and CEO of OIC of America. OIC of America is one of the first national training programs of its kind in the U.S. and was formed in 1964 at a former jailhouse by the Reverend Leon H. Sullivan, a black preacher from Charleston, West Virginia, who led the Zion Baptist Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was during his tenure at this church that Dr. Sullivan made his extraordinary contributions to humanity that warranted the creation of the Sullivan Museum and Visitor Center to be based in North Philadelphia at the historic Progress Plaza. It was in Philadelphia that his work and his preaching earned him the name Lion of Zion. Globally, Sullivan's work was manifested in a document referred to as the Global Sullivan Principles, which detail his fight for economic inclusion and social justice and his fight against racism in the United States and South Africa. In his quest for justice, Sullivan was one of the early leaders that called for the freedom of Nelson Mandela and the divestiture of U.S. investment in the Republic of South Africa. Sullivan organized corporate leaders to support the Global Sullivan Principles to fight apartheid in South Africa. In the globalization of his work, Sullivan recognized that skills training and access to quality education would make a difference for all and would be the great equalizer for the poor. The content of the Sullivan Museum and Visitor Center will contain his body of work produced during his lifelong fight as a global change agent. Many of the institutions he created are still in operation, working every day to transform the lives of those in need. In Philadelphia and across the OIC of America organization, this organization has trained over 2 million people since 1964. What we refer to as workforce development today was created by Reverend Leon H. Sullivan. The notion of self-help was codified in his work and became part of the Sullivan philosophy to inspire people to attend the OIC training centers to gain skills necessary to get a job to change one's life. The OIC International Training Centers also operated with the Sullivan philosophy as its thought process to have teachers, students, and trainees work towards economic empowerment and social change. The Sullivan Museum will become another jewel in the cultural crown of Philadelphia. The Sullivan Museum will collect Sullivan's books, papers, and documents accumulated with foreign governments and meetings with many presidents of the U.S. and their cabinet members. The collection of documents, artifacts, and recorded interviews will demonstrate how Sullivan developed his voice and actions to become one of the most effective world leaders of his time. The Sullivan Museum will increase the workforce across Pennsylvania by providing state-of-the-art virtual skills training. In addition, it will add revenue to the historic Progress Plaza Shopping Center. This attraction will bring hundreds of tourists from around the world to see the historical contributions of Leon H. Sullivan. Philadelphia tourists spend an average of $1,803 per week per person when visiting. This easily translates into millions of dollars for Philadelphia's economy over the many years the museum will exist. This initiative is a bold endeavor that brings attention to the past contributions of Leon Sullivan. However, it does not stop there. The use of technology will bring his work into the 21st century and provide an essential context for the struggle to achieve economic equity. While it is an educational and historical asset, it is also an equally vital portal to help forgotten people in forgotten places. It provides access to the poor people in the surrounding communities while serving as an essential historical destination for thousands of visitors who recognize Reverend Leon Sullivan's national and international work. And, like Progress Plaza, it demonstrates that the work of Dr. Sullivan started in the 60s and is still relevant today, both at home and abroad. The Virtual Learning Hub will have the capacity to train poor people in the United States and around the world. This interstate platform will benefit the entire Commonwealth virtually via training and cultural visitation. It goes beyond serving as a tribute to a world leader as it continues his fight for economic justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. King. Members, questions for our testifier? Mr. King, in your testimony, you stated that you would acquire the materials, archival materials, documents, writings of the Reverend Dr. Sullivan Are these things in your possession now, or are these things that you are working to acquire to build this museum around?
Madam Chair, they are in our possession and the possession of the other Sullivan entities, such as OIC International, the Sullivan Trust, IFISH, and others. They're readily accessible, literally like Raiders of the Lost Ark in storage somewhere waiting to be displayed.
That sounds like a very exciting prospect. Very good. Any further questions? Senator Street.
Look, thank you for the work that Sullivan Institute's doing. Have you begun to coordinate with so many of the other groups that are working in your area? I mean, you're right on the Broad Street corridor, at least your headquarters is. I know you're servicing people throughout the Southeast. But I would imagine you'd be a destination place for a number of folks. Have you started talking with Visit Philly and perhaps the North Broad Corridor?
Senator Street, yes, we have, through the work of Stan Strouder, we are being introduced to the other parties engaged in that corridor, as well as those, the Philadelphia 250 project and the other Sullivan entities. We have here today representatives from Progress Plaza. We talk almost every day with Philadelphia OIC, and of course we have a deep relationship with Zion Baptist Church.
Thank you. Appreciate the work you've done. You know, my dad started off as a teacher at OIC.
Yes, sir.
Further questions? Mr. King?
Thank you.
Thank you again. Appreciate your testimony today. Our next testifier is Benjamin Pawson, Development Director at First Person Arts. You may begin your testimony when you are ready.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here. While I may sound like a British person, ironically discussing the ways that we might celebrate the 250th anniversary of American independence, I'm here today as a Philadelphian and as a Pennsylvanian. I'm also the Development Director of First Person Arts, or FPA. We believe that Pennsylvania has a commonwealth of stories, and First Person Arts is here to offer to hold them for the long term. We want to use them to connect communities across this great commonwealth and introduce the commonwealth to more of the world. FPA is storytelling. As Philly's premier storytelling nonprofit, we transform the drama of real life into stories for the stage, the page, and the digital age. We do this because stories have the power to connect people from all walks of life around our unique and shared experiences. Like an archive story that we have from our monthly story slams, where Chris shared a story about coaching a team of quadriplegic wheelchair rugby players and finding the dignity in their wins when they had lost so much. An audience member emailed us later telling us that because of that story, he had resolved to take a trip to Colorado at Christmas to visit a friend of his who'd moved there and had recently suffered a terrifying and crippling relationship breakdown and had a broken heart. We don't often get to hear how the stories that cross our stage impact our audience in such a specific way, but we know that they do, and we want to encourage more of that. And so, for the semi-quin, First Person Arts is proposing the America250PA Story Bank, a commonwealth of stories. This story bank will be a shared digital infrastructure where we can all reflect on our past, our present, and our future. We believe that the grand American experiment in democracy is centered in the stories of people. So asking Pennsylvanians in 2026 to reflect and capture their stories makes sense to us and is very much what we do. This project also meets the goals of Forum 250PA, which seeks to inspire public engagement through shared stories and experiences. So the PA's Story Bank will be a collection of story banks contributed by historical societies, community groups, and citizens from all 67 counties across Pennsylvania. And we hope many of the people here today would contribute their personal stories. We would then share these stories digitally across the Commonwealth for a host of creative uses. We'd like to start the infrastructure with some of the 10,000 stories and 4 terabytes of data that First Person Arts have gathered since 2001. Working with numerous partners across the Commonwealth, we'll add to these stories with interviews, submissions, and collected at partner sites. All stories are welcome, from historical locations to towns across the digital divide, rural and urban, red and blue, white and black and brown. After a story is told, recorded, and beamed back to our HQ, it will be transcribed, analyzed, tagged for things like places, names, but also emotions and themes, and then added to the PA250 Story Bank and will be freely available digitally for embedding, reusing, remixing, and sharing. The stories will be curated and connected to public spaces across the Commonwealth where story explorers can listen to the stories that make PA great and contribute to the Story Bank with their own stories. Imagine those stories being used by schools and tourism boards and historical locations, anyone who wants to show the richness and depth of Pennsylvania's past, its present, and our hopes for its future. During the semi-quin, the Commonwealth of Stories will be made available in public spaces throughout Philadelphia as well, exposing visitors, of whom we expect many, to the full beauty of Pennsylvania and encouraging tourism throughout the Commonwealth. So the stories of today's Pennsylvanians in the PA250 Story Bank will help us all understand where we are and where we could go. We also want to see if we can update the stories for the next big anniversary, 300 years. The tricentennial, which is much easier to pronounce, and we would love to be involved in that too, although perhaps not me personally. Thank you very much, and open to questions.
Thank you very much. I made it for the bicentennial. I'm going to make it for the semi-quincentennial. The tricentennial, I'm going to leave to future generations. Members, questions for Mr. Pawson? Representative Solomon.
Thank you. It seems like you've done a really good job of securing private funding. I see Knights Foundation. How much of this budget do you think they'll be able to cover?
We originally asked them for about $600,000. It's a very kind of fungible project, though. It could expand to cover more of Pennsylvania. We'd love to send story hunters into more historical locations. And then I think the Knight Foundation wanted to look at getting artists to respond to the stories that were submitted to the Story Bank as well. So it's a very kind of flexible.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
If I may, I see there are hosting costs in year 1, year 2, and year 3 being 2026. You're partnering and working with Drexel University, University of Pennsylvania. You'll have this together for 2026. What happens after 2026? Digital archives have to be hosted.
I think the initial,
how are these preserved in perpetuity?
I think the initial idea was a small endowment. I think as much as 10% of the project budget could be set aside to infinitely endow the hosting costs, but the maintenance costs and kind of adding new stories, that would need to be ongoing funding, absolutely.
Okay, very good. Any further questions from colleagues? Thank you so much for your testimony today. Our next testifier today is Commissioner Michelle Kickline and Connor Hepp, President of the Chester County History Center, America250PA, Chester County Commission. If I have mispronounced your names, I apologize, and welcome. We look forward to your testimony.
You actually pronounced them correctly, so thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to present Chester County's vision for our 250th Legacy Infrastructure Project. I'm Commissioner Michelle Kickline, and with me is Connor Hepp, our Executive Director of the Chester County History Center. And we are here to represent the Chester County 250 Commission. And Chester County's project is the Philadelphia Campaign, Forging a Nation and Learning from History. And we will promote inclusive, compelling heritage experiences. Through it, residents and visitors will explore the many ways Chester County participated in and influenced our nation's past. They will also engage in our continuing journey to build a more perfect union. We will harness Chester County's heritage sites combined with community events and education initiatives. We will focus on the Philadelphia Campaign, iron and steel, natural landscapes, the Underground Railroad, and we will highlight our power of place. We, the people, will draw on our socio-cultural, landscape, and creative expressions to examine the unfinished business of the American experiment.
The Philadelphia Campaign has not been properly showcased, yet it holds many lessons about our nation's pursuit for freedom. The campaign began when the British Army arrived in Maryland, then marched north on what is now Route 1, going right by what is now Longwood Gardens. The campaign included noteworthy battles in Chester County, the Battle of the Brandywine, the Battle of the Clouds, and the Paoli Massacre. These battles were followed by the maturing of the colonial army at Valley Forge. Although the British won all the major battles, they were unable to crush the rebellion, demonstrating our fortitude in our fight for freedom. Currently, Chester County's Philadelphia Campaign heritage sites operate in relative isolation. To more vibrantly showcase Chester County's role in our nation's freedom journey, this legacy project will knit together multiple battlefields, heritage sites, making powerful resident connections. We aim to enhance the visitor experiences by connecting the Philadelphia Campaign heritage sites in 40 Chester County municipalities and strengthening long-standing partnerships with Delaware and Montgomery counties. Our interpretations will go beyond the historical facts to include stories of traditionally underrepresented people and highlight experiences of those involved. For example, Ned Hector, an unsung black hero of the Battle of Brandywine. Our project includes, number one, gateway improvements to the Brandywine Battlefield Park to provide comprehensive interpretive programming to serve as launching points to our tours. Number two, 9 more heritage centers will be built, incorporating what we've learned from the 3 that have already been established. And number 3, 70 more interpretive sites will be installed, highlighting places where specific events occurred.
Chester County is an incredible place to live and to visit. From our east, we readily draw Philadelphians seeking a change of pace and award-winning open spaces. From regions north, south, and west, tourists are drawn by our sites and amenities. We whet their appetites and strengthen their motivation to visit the attractions of Philadelphia and the surrounding regions. As of 2019, tourism was a $1.18 billion industry in Chester County, supporting 22,000 jobs, and then COVID struck. As of 2023, our tourism levels are recovering, and we estimate that this project will generate 5 to 10% more tourist revenue by the end of 2026, which equates to $65 to $118 million more in annual economic impact. Jobs in our hospitality and leisure industry are growing twice the rate of any other jobs in our region. The budget for the Philadelphia Campaign reflects the comprehensive nature of this project. We respectfully request a lead grant from PA 250 to cover 1/3 of the overall cost. This will be a great kickoff to support our fundraising campaign and leverage support from local businesses, foundations, and individuals. In conclusion, this project is a win-win-win. History wins because knitting heritage sites together elevates the Philadelphia Campaign to its rightful place. The economy wins because increased tourist spending supports local employment, builds the local tax base, and brings regional, national, and international visitors to our region. And future generations win because the Philadelphia Campaign will better engage youths, families, and children and educators with history and civics in a very local and relevant way. Lessons learned from the Philadelphia campaign serve as a beacon of hope and inspiration for all who want to continue the journey for justice, freedom, and independence. So thank you for your consideration, and we'll certainly entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Members, questions for the testifiers? Representative Benninghoff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have 3 different major projects you have here. Are any of these underway? And if this America 250 was not even on the books, would you still be pursuing all 3 of these?
Sure. We currently have some heritage sites in existence. Some of them have been supported through private funding from some private organizations. For instance, we have the Kennett Square Heritage Site, which focuses almost exclusively on the Underground Railroad. However, the challenge has been Chester County, as many of you know, is a very, very large county. I mean, we're abutting a couple of states, multiple different counties. We're almost the size of the state of Rhode Island. And to get this type of connectivity, which would draw people from one side of the county towards the southeast region, like the Delaware County border, the Bucks County border, we really need to integrate this because it's kind of operating as silos right now. And for a large event like the semi-quincentennial, it would be, I think, a boon, not just for Chester County, but for the entire region to have a little more comprehensive program.
Very good. Representative Solomon.
Is this the Chester County proposal?
Yes, this has been supported by the Chester County 250 organization that was appointed by all of the Chester County commissioners.
Oh, and then you got support from other stakeholders?
Correct.
Oh, wow. So it's just you're unified and this is the only one?
Yes, I mean, obviously there's going to be other things that are going to occur. We are working, I think you obviously heard Senator Dinniman, there's a lot of private organizations that are supporting other activities. We do work and have supported initiatives for the Underground Railroad, but this is the project that we are presenting for Chester County because it's like I said, there's significant history in Chester County, but it's been siloed, and the idea is to have these heritage sites, of which we have a few, and these markers, so that when the 250 celebration occurs, there will be a comprehensive program digitally, physically, to get tourists throughout the county and to Philadelphia, to Bucks, to Delaware County. I mean, we're kind of a keystone, and I often say, even though nobody can say kick line, my parents are immigrants, but the kick line name is actually rooted in Bucks County, where my husband's direct ancestor mustered the troops for Washington. So I often say that Chester County is a melting pot. You have immigrants, you have people of different backgrounds, and you have folks that originally started in Bucks County. He grew up 2 miles from here and settled in Chester County. So I think it's a very important project that's going to bring a lot of people, not just to Chester County, but connecting, and that's why we think it's so significant.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Well, I can tell you, having served in the House at the back of the chamber, which is not typically seen by visitors, but every member who walks up those walkways between our desks sees this iconic painting of Baron von Steuben instructing the troops at Valley Forge. It was really a very pivotal place in our history, and we appreciate the work that you have been doing to pull this all together and appreciate your testimony here today. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Our next testifier today is Larry Dubinsky, President and CEO of the Franklin Institute. Welcome.
Thank you all very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for your service to this Commonwealth, and obviously extremely excited as we move to the 250. I'm proud to be here representing the Franklin Institute, the most visited museum in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and a nationally recognized hands-on science and technology center. I'm here today to share with you a transformational project taking place at the museum. Like our great country, the Franklin Institute is continually reinventing itself. On the eve of our 200th anniversary in 2024 and the 250th anniversary of our nation in 2026, the Institute is completely transforming its Science Center to better meet the needs of our community. We're calling this project for the future Mission WOW. Mission WOW includes a complete reimagination of the museum's core exhibits on the science of space, the human body, engineering, environmental science, computer science, and robotics, along with critical infrastructure, ADA updates, and electrical upgrades to our 1934 building. As you all know, all of this is a costly endeavor, especially in light of today's economic landscape. The first exhibitions on space science, the human body, and environmental science will open in 2023, later this year, 2024, and 2025, respectively. In time for our nation's landmark birthday in 2026, we will also see the opening of a brand new 8,000 square foot exhibition on engineering, tackling topics such as architecture, urban planning, transportation, manufacturing, and energy, which will draw visitors from far and wide to the Institute and the Commonwealth. New core exhibits will push the envelope in creative and experiential design, taking immersion, imagination, and impact to new levels. We are developing next-generation experiences that demonstrate the importance of science, technology, engineering, and math in our everyday lives, and in doing so, building 21st century skills. The goal of Mission WOW is simple: spark within visitors an interest in science and inspire them to continue learning once they leave our Science Center. In the coming years, tens of millions of new jobs in science and technology will be created, but in many cases, our youth are not prepared for these positions. Schools are doing the best they can, but they cannot do it alone. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, public, parochial, private schools, and science institutions must work together to address this challenge. The Franklin Institute is uniquely positioned to take on this challenge. For nearly 200 years, the Institute has been central to the education and cultural fabric of the Commonwealth. There are not many organizations that have existed since the early days of our country and that continue today in such a vibrant and meaningful way. The Institute was the very first organization of its kind to receive a federal grant, and at that point to study the science behind steam boiler explosions. From there, the Institute went on to serve as home to the earliest and most complete repository of U.S. patents, played a major role in the shaping of Central High School, consistently ranked one of the best public high schools in Pennsylvania, and opened what became known as Moore College of Art and Design. From the iconic Giant Heart to blockbuster exhibitions like King Tut, the Franklin Institute is a proven economic engine for city, state, and regional tourism. With our core mission to educate and inspire, the Institute works within its walls and across the region, in libraries, community centers, and with out-of-school time partners to train educators and engage students, especially those from underrepresented communities. Beyond the Science Center walls, the Institute provides out-of-school time programming in 33 states, professional development for thousands of educators in Pennsylvania, and free programs for middle and high school students. Providing weekly workshops on STEM topics, ACT prep, paid internships, and college and career readiness support, these programs are invaluable opportunities for students. In 2022, the Institute saw visitors come to the museum from every county in the Commonwealth. Additionally, each year, hundreds of thousands of school children visit on field trips. All student tickets are deeply discounted and completely free for those attending Title I schools. Research shows that an interest in science and technology doubles with each visit someone makes to the Science Center, such as the Institute, and we know visits are impactful. Millions of students and visitors will come to the Institutes in the decade ahead, and we must ensure that we are doing all we can to be a source of inspiration and the best, most effective partner in education. Mission WOW cannot be achieved without public and private support. I want to thank you for your time today and thank you for your consideration and support of our project, which is sure to be a must-see experience in Pennsylvania in 2026 and beyond.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Members, questions? Senator Street.
Look, I'm a big fan of the Franklin Institute. I love the work that you all do. I'm excited to see what's happening going forward. To what extent are you talking with the folks at Visit Philly about making sure that when people come in, that they're aware of all the things that are going on, particularly for families that are coming in with small children? You have a way of, your institute is a museum that is a lot more family friendly and interactive so that people can get experiences from senior citizens down to kids. And I think making sure you market the fact that you're a multi-generational institution would be helpful. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Senator Street, thanks for your support and the question. Yeah, we work very closely with Visit Philly and the Convention and Visitors Bureau to ensure that we are working with them to fill hotel rooms, get the marketing message out, really regionally and nationwide, as you know, and developing partnerships with them, as we just, we did partnerships with them both on the Disney 100 and most recently, but also bringing 500,000 people plus to Philadelphia and the Commonwealth last year with Harry Potter, helping to sell hotel rooms. But I think more importantly for what we've heard today are these phenomenal projects throughout the Commonwealth, and our goal is to make sure not only do people come to the Franklin Institute, but they go visit all the wonderful offerings that are in Philadelphia and the Commonwealth in general in Pennsylvania, and we know we're going to have a lot of those in 2050 and want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I just want to again thank you. I mean, you're a destination museum, and a lot of the other smaller museums along the Parkway benefit from the fact that people will come to the Franklin Institute and then maybe visit the Rodin Museum or the other smaller museums that they may not come into town for, but certainly they come to see you, and we'll love to support you in whatever way we can.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions? Want to say thank you, and
thank
boy,
you.
that heart's a lot smaller than I thought it was when I was a little girl and first visited. So it truly is an iconic museum, and I would be hard pressed to find many of us who haven't been there. So thank you for what you continue to do to inspire the next generation to go into science.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you again for all your efforts.
Our next testifier today is Eric Pryor, President and CEO of the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. Welcome. And please proceed with your testimony when you are ready. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for inviting the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts to present testimony for our infrastructure project making much-needed renovations to our 1876 historic landmark building, an architectural gem designed by Frank Furness and George Hewitt to showcase American ingenuity as a factory of art, bringing together the best of American creativity and industry. I'm Eric Pryor, President and CEO of PAFA, and I'm pleased to be here with you today. PAFA was founded in 1805 by artists and civic leaders and business leaders who understood the importance of art to forging a national identity and establishing a legacy for America in its earliest days, and wanted Pennsylvania at the forefront of these efforts. PAFA is deeply intertwined with America's history. Its articles of association were signed in the Independence Hall in 1805, and the signatories included 4 signers of the Declaration of Independence. The works in PAFA's collection date from 1776, putting it in a unique position to tell a complete story of American art from the country's founding through the 19th, 20th centuries, and today. PAFA trained many of the most recognized American artists who represent the country and state and the world, included Violet Oakley, Mary Cassatt, Barclay Hendricks. It is the only museum in Philadelphia focused exclusively on American art, and its 16,000 works collection is considered one of the most important collections of American art in the world. PAFA seeks level 4 funding to complete major renovations to its nationally designed historic landmark building, which opened to the public in 1876 as part of America's centennial celebration. The last major renovations took place in 1976 as part of the America's bicentennial. Updated renovations are now critical to safeguard PAFA's historic collection, allowing us to continue sharing the national treasure with generations to come. Work will include replacing PAFA's HVAC system, roof, and electrical system, and renovating galleries and bathrooms. Once renovated, the historic landmark building will reopen with a major reinstallation of PAFA's permanent collection tied directly to the 250th anniversary celebrations in 2026. The reinstallation will be on view for at least 3 years, allowing PAFA to highlight iconic masterpieces as well as underrepresented American artists and share new historical narratives through public events and programs promoting a deeper understanding of American identity and inspiring visitors to think about the nation's next 250 years. PAFA welcomes approximately 130,000 visitors each year, and this number will increase in 2026 with the Pennsylvania 250 celebrations. Visitors come to PAFA from throughout Pennsylvania and across the country and around the world. PAFA is committed to reaching underserved audiences of all ages with free and low-cost offerings, and the reinstallation will be especially beneficial to PAFA's K-12 audience, inspiring and educating them through art and offering a new understanding of American history. The total project cost is approximately $23 million, creating 220 new jobs and maintaining and supporting jobs for 130 current employees. The ongoing economic impact and benefit includes drawing tourists to the city, serving Pennsylvanians with a major cultural attraction, and bringing students to the city to study and live. PAFA is an anchor on North Broad Street, contributing to a renaissance of the North Broad Street corridor, which is a business improvement district. PAFA is also located directly across the street from the Pennsylvania Convention Center and is uniquely positioned to draw businesses and visitors to the region. This renovation project is critical in allowing PAFA to care for its historic collection, including the 1876 building itself. It will allow PAFA to continue telling innovative stories through American art, training fine artists, providing unique engagement and educational opportunities for the public, supporting scholarship in American art, and contributing to the vital cultural life of Pennsylvania for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, questions for Mr. Pryor? Senator Street.
Do you all coordinate at all with the Pennsylvania Convention Center? It's right across the street around getting some of the folks who are coming in for conventions to come over and check out your fine museum?
We definitely do. We think that the Convention Center is uniquely positioned to have one of the nation's oldest food halls in Reading Terminal and one of its oldest museums across the street. It's very unique there. I haven't ever been to any other museum or convention center that has those type of attractions that close to it, so we definitely coordinate with the Convention Center.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Pryor? Want to thank you for the great work you have done in the past and continue to do in the present. I can tell you that my Senate colleagues and I truly enjoy the work of Violet Oakley, one of your finest students, I would think. It's amazing, and we are so fortunate to sit in that chamber and just take it all in.
Well,
every day we're in session, so thank you.
Thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon.
You as well. Our next testifier today is Lisa Minardi. She is the Executive Director of Historic TRAP. We welcome your testimony, and you may begin when you are ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you our truly exciting plans for infrastructure projects celebrating the America 250 and historic TRAP located in Montgomery County. My name is Lisa Minardi, and I'm the director of this organization, where I first got involved 20 years ago when I was just 19 years old, a student at nearby Ursinus College. And I learned that the home of Frederick Muhlenberg, the first Speaker of the United States House of Representatives and the first signer of Bill of Rights, located in Trapp, was about to be torn down to build a CVS. Well, I was not going to let that happen if I could do anything to stop it. Muhlenberg also served Pennsylvania well, serving as a representative to the Continental Congress, as Speaker of the Pennsylvania Assembly, and as President of Pennsylvania's Constitutional Convention. And thankfully, with help from Montgomery County's open space funding and many private donors, we were able to rescue what we call the Speaker's House in 2006. And since then, our community volunteers have been restoring the house shoulder to shoulder with expert craftspeople, helping to pass along priceless historic trade skills. And in your packets, in the centerfold, you can see photos of our progress on the house over time, as well as an artist rendering of the restored house as it will look in the future. In 2020, we merged with our local historical society to create a historic Trapp, focusing on Pennsylvania's rich German heritage. Now, many of us today are familiar with Pennsylvania Dutch, or really German culture, but it's usually associated with the Amish, who in fact are just a tiny fraction of the Pennsylvania Germans. These Germans were the largest immigrant group from Europe to colonial America, with 81,000 arriving through Philadelphia. When the first federal census was taken in 1790, Germans were the largest single group in southeastern PA, about 40% of the population. Even in colonial Philadelphia, the Quaker city, it was German Lutherans mostly who were the largest ethnic group. And today, some 42 million Americans, including nearly 3 million Pennsylvanians, report having German ancestry. So we in Historic Trapp are ideally situated to tell this unsung story of Pennsylvania's German heritage as it relates to the America250. We were founded in 1717, and are just 10 miles from Valley Forge and 30 from Philadelphia. We're home to 5 historic sites directly connected with the American Revolution, and we are the site of a Continental Army encampment in late September 1777 between the battles of Brandywine and Germantown. Our town is famous for its connection to the Muhlenberg family, the most influential Pennsylvania Germans of the 18th century, who served as leaders not only in government, but also the church, military, science, and education. And across our historic sites and our Center for Pennsylvania German Studies, we explore these themes of immigration, of culture, language, and heritage that are relevant to all Pennsylvanians today, in 2026, and beyond. So the legacy project that we propose is in 2 parts, both of them directly linked to the America250 and Pennsylvania history. Part 1 of this is to complete the restoration of the Speaker's House, which would enable this incredibly important historic site to be fully open to the public for tours by 2026. Really, now is the time to finish this project so that visitors to the greater Philadelphia and Valley Forge area can tour the house and learn firsthand about the contributions of Pennsylvania Germans to the Revolution and the founding of our nation. And this is our most pressing need and our highest priority for funding. Part 2 of our proposal is to construct a visitor center that would welcome visitors and students, and it would include a much-needed parking area where we could accommodate both school and tour buses, accessible restrooms, and a classroom. The center would provide space for community gatherings, which does not currently exist in town. It would have an exhibition gallery where we would host an inaugural special exhibit on declaring independence and the Pennsylvania Germans' role in the founding of the country. It would also give greatly needed space for our growing collection of books, manuscripts, and artifacts, most of which is now literally crammed into attics, basements, and storage sheds that have no climate control and very little security. We would build this welcome center behind our Muhlenberg House Museum, a central spot on our town's main street and directly related to the 250, because during the Revolutionary War, this is where Henry Muhlenberg had an eyewitness account and where his son, General Peter Muhlenberg, then lived. We know we're making a big ask of the committee with this, but we do have many private donors who are interested in this. We've had a 6-figure pledge from Ross Myers, the CEO of American Infrastructure. We also hosted Kevin McCarthy to tour our museum in June, and he has pledged his support as well. We've structured both parts of this in phases so we can proceed as funds permit. And we hope to have your support as well so we can serve Pennsylvanians from all parts of the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, questions for Ms. Minardi? We thank you for your testimony. This is really quite a significant piece of architecture and our history. I commend you as a young person taking on this monumental task and accomplishing what you have accomplished.
Thank you very much. It's been half my life, and I'm obviously very committed to seeing it through. So
That's
thank
wonderful. Thank you. Our next testifier here today is Corey Omsler, Vice President of Collections and Interpretation, Bucks County Historical Society. And we welcome your testimony when you are ready.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I am Corey Amsler. I'm the Vice President for Collections and Interpretation at the Bucks County Historical Society, the BCHS. Founded in 1880, the BCHS is dedicated to preserving Bucks County history and promoting the significant role the past plays in contemporary life. The Historical Society operates the Mercer Museum, seen here, and Fonthill Castle in Doylestown, both the legacy of Henry Chapman Mercer, 1856 to 1930. It's fitting that we're meeting today at Lehigh University, where Henry Mercer was awarded an honorary Doctor of Laws degree in 1929. Mercer began collecting the tools of America's pre-industrial past in 1897. He sought to rescue these material remnants of the 18th and early 19th centuries before they were swept away in a rapidly modernizing America. These artifacts are representative of our nation's formative years, including the period leading up to the Revolution, the struggle for independence, and the founding of the U.S. government. Mercer initially called his collection the Tools of the Nation Maker to reflect these items' purpose and function. He recognized in simple terms that the collection contains, figuratively and literally, the implements that help to build America. In fact, it is one of the most comprehensive assemblages of any such collection in the United States today. Mercer believed these artifacts represented collectively history from the point of view of the work of human hands. Speaking on the significance of the collection in 1907, Mercer said, "Here we have history presented from a new point of view." Mr. Bancroft, a prominent 19th century historian, wrote the history of the United States and dwelt with great vividness upon the Revolutionary War. But no history can show, as these things show, that during that war, 100,000 hands armed with sickles were reaping wheat and rye so as to make any kind of war possible by the production of bread, without which all of the combatants on both sides would have been unable to fight. You may go down to Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Mercer continued, and stand in the room in which the Declaration of Independence was signed, and there look up at the portraits of the signers. But do you think that you are any nearer the essence of the matter than you are here among those objects when you realize that 100,000 arms seizing upon axes with an immense amount of effort made it worthwhile to have a Declaration of Independence at all? Between 1913 and 1916, Mercer constructed a massive fireproof concrete structure to protect and house these and other historical American implements. Like concrete infrastructure everywhere, his castle-like building is now suffering decay and deterioration, with water-penetrating cracks, corroding rebar, and spalling the concrete roof, cornice, and walls. Funnels suspended from ceilings collect water in buckets, while pads and plastic cover objects and walkways. While some restoration work was conducted 25 years ago, it has not arrested the deterioration. We now seek support for a somewhat more aggressive and durable approach to restoring the museum's concrete roof in order to protect the collections contained within. The proposed project is intended to seal the many roof cracks and fissures that enable water to penetrate through the concrete to the interior of Mercer's original museum building. These leaks not only threaten the collections, but endanger the preservation of the building itself. This work is especially timely. To coincide with the nation's 250th anniversary, the Mercer will present in its modern wing a major original exhibition, The Doane Gang, Outlaws of the Revolution, from May 2024 through the end of 2026. The exhibit offers a deeply meaningful and relevant story of everyday people struggling to choose between remaining loyal to England and breaking free to create a new nation. Visitors will discover a complex story and perhaps find unexpected connections to our times today. In coming to this exhibition, visitors will also encounter Mercer's original collections and evocative architecture. The present condition of that architecture, however, reflects poorly on the historical value of the artifacts contained within. A leaking building hardly represents a place of honor for the tools that everyday Americans use to help build an independent nation. We seek your assistance in implementing the preservation and restoration work that will provide a more positive experience for visitors as we welcome Pennsylvania, America, and the world to our doors in 2026. Given Henry Mercer's belief that the tools wielded by 18th century Americans are as essential to understanding and visualizing our beginnings as the political and military events that led to independence, there is no more appropriate time to implement these critical repairs than in preparation for America 250. Thank you, and I'm prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your testimony today. Members, questions? Senator Sanacero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Amsler, thank you for being here today. I think about 2 weeks ago at the last hearing, you heard from the Michener Museum, which is right across the street, and also a terrific jewel in Bucks County and for southeastern Pennsylvania. I just want to point out, as was the case, I believe, with the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, part of the importance of this project, as Mr. Amsler just said, is not only preserving the collection, but the building. The building is itself a gem and unique, as is the Fonthill Castle. And by the way, for those of us who serve in the legislature, every day that we walk into our beautiful capital, we are reminded of Henry Mercer because we walk on Moravian Tile Works tiles, which were created there in Doylestown as well. This is really an integral part of Pennsylvania history and an important and unique building that needs to be preserved in addition to its collection. And so I wholeheartedly support it and ask for the committee's support as well.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Benninghoff.
Well, the senator indirectly answered the one question that the chairwoman and I were pondering earlier, but I assumed it was the same Mercer. That said, the collection and the building both belong to your society, or who owns all
That's
this?
correct. The collection and building. The collection began in 1897 by Henry Mercer, who then he ultimately donated the collection to the Bucks County Historical Society over the course of his life and then at the time of his death.
Is there additional property that has to be maintained to the house? I mean, the house itself is beautiful, but I suspect...
Yes, so the Historical Society operates two structures. One, the Mercer Museum, which was built to be a museum by Henry Mercer from 1913 to 1916.
Right.
We also operate Fonthill Castle, which was Mercer's home, which was built between 1908 and 1912. Between the two of them, there's these two historic buildings, and we also maintain about 100 acres of open space, the majority of those at Fonthill Castle.
It's amazing they were able to build those things as fast as they did, really, considering what they're made out of. But are the craftsmen available to work on a project like that? I mean, cement ceilings or roofs are not that common anymore.
We've had the great good fortune over the years. I've been at the Mercer Museum for 35 years, and I can say that the contractor who has continued to work with us all these many years, and before I even started, is a local contractor. He is intimately familiar with the building and has mustered resources in the past to do restoration work. So we feel very positive about not only the contractor's ability to complete the work, muster the resources, but also that contractor's commitment as a Doylestown resident himself and themselves to sensitively restoring the building.
We need to find a little money to find some way to not let him age.
Yeah.
But
It's
I apologize
father and son.
if I missed in your testimony. What was the original ask from this?
A little
commission?
over $2 million.
Okay, thank you. Beautiful project, unbelievable work of art. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Amsler, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your
the
testimony.
opportunity.
Our next testifier is Randy Cope, Township Manager, and Seth O'Neill, Finance Director, North Whitehall Township. Welcome, and please proceed with your testimony when you are ready.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having us this afternoon and the opportunity to present our municipal building renovations project in North Whitehall Township. North Whitehall Township provides general public works, planning, administrative, wastewater, stormwater, and parks and recreation services for nearly 16,000 residents in northeastern Lehigh County. The township also participates heavily in farmland and open space preservation to help maintain the agricultural history of the township. The first people to populate North Whitehall Township were the Mincy Delaware tribe, also known as the Lenni-Lenape tribe. The region that comprises North Whitehall Township was used as their hunting, fishing, and camping grounds. In the early 1700s, settlers, predominantly of German descent, began clearing the land, raising crops, and establishing 9 villages within North Whitehall. In November of 1810, Whitehall Township divided into South Whitehall, Whitehall, and North Whitehall Township. 213 years later, North Whitehall encompasses 125 miles of township roads, nearly 6,500 homes, rolling farmland, and beautiful recreational areas. The Township Building Campus is also home to Municipal Park, where hundreds of children and adults from North Whitehall and surrounding municipalities participate in baseball and basketball leagues. Furthermore, the trailhead for the popular Ironton Rail Trail is also located at Municipal Park, just adjacent to the Township Building. That park, or that trail alone, supports over 300,000 visitors annually. Recently, the township worked closely with local businesses and the Ironton Rail Trail Commission to refurbish and relocate one of the original locomotives from the Ironton Railroad to the park, which was located about 5 years ago all the way down in Texas, and the township paid for the engine to get relocated back to the municipal campus. Now on to our building renovations. During construction of the municipal building renovations, the project will likely keep 20 to 30 construction positions busy for approximately 12 months. These trades include carpentry, site work, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC categories. Currently, the township building is small, and we are outgrowing it very quickly. The building is able to hold 9 full-time administrative staff, which we have maxed out. After completion, the project will allow for an increase of 7 administrative positions, and furthermore, the township's current men's locker room for our Public Works Department is maxed out at 12 Public Works employees, so the renovations will double the size of the men's locker room and also include a new women's locker room, which currently does not exist, with an additional 12 lockers for the women. Overall, the project has a potential to include an additional 31 jobs, and although these positions may not be filled in short term, the potential for long-term growth is supported by the renovations. So a little bit more about the scope of work. The township building is obviously the main operations hub for conducted township business. With the recent experienced growth and lack of space for additional employee positions, the township has started the process to upgrade our facility to manage future growth and the operations of the township for the next 20-plus years. By obtaining grants to support this project, it will help alleviate the debt service payment and allow the township to continue our focus on infrastructure rehabilitation and preserving additional farmland and open space that maintains the history and culture of North Whitehall Township. In general, everything except the Public Works garage will be completely renovated with new aesthetics, energy-efficient mechanical systems, and upgraded IT systems to provide a better work environment for staff, boards, and commissions, as well as our residents. The township will also build a new public meeting room and visitors' entrance lobby to provide for a better resident experience. The existing meeting room will be converted into a training/recreation room that can also be utilized by community groups who currently do not have a meeting place. And finally, 2 new additional conference rooms, room for storage, and a relocated IT room will be included in the renovations. The project does take into consideration room for future growth in both the administrative and public works operations. A new parking area will also be constructed adjacent to the existing parking lot to help alleviate stress during busy evening hours when the township has a public meeting and there are 6 different sport leagues going on at the adjacent park. Recently, the Board of Supervisors did make a motion at their recent August meeting to move forward with this project, so we're well underway. And the township has already completed the conceptual plans and has onboarded a financial advisor to help the township obtain any necessary bank loans or bonds that may be required to support this project. Currently, the project timeline for the project is going out to bid in February of next year, with construction commencing May of 2024 and wrapping up 12 months later in May of 2025. So the project will be completed prior to 2026. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, questions? Representative Benninghoff.
2 questions. One, is the train that you brought back up, is that being utilized for anything for tourism or economic development or anything?
Yes, actually, it's located right at the trailhead for the Ironton Rail Trail, which is adjacent to our municipal building. It was just completely refurbished with dollars raised by the Ironton Rail Trail Commission, as well as North Whitehall Township contributing funds to that.
I like old trains. I'm glad to see you preserving them.
Very cool. Yeah.
I never had any when I was little, so. The other question has to do with your comments regarding if we get this money to help to support this project, to alleviate the debt services so the township can focus more on rehabilitation and preserving additional farmland. Do you actually have a township program and where you're purchasing easements and or purchasing properties?
We do. Currently, it brings in about $150,000 a year, which gets, it doesn't take it very far, to be frank with you. But we recently sent out a letter around this time last year, and we've obtained another 9, I believe, agricultural easements, people actually interested in the preservation program. North Whitehall is very unique in the sense that it's not one major landowner that owns most of the township. There's many privately owned, family-owned farms that have been in generations and generations, and they want to preserve that culture. They want to preserve that history of their family's legacy, and obviously raising additional funds is a way for us to help support their financial needs and to get those farms preserved.
Just so I understand, I'm for preserving open space as well, but you're saying you're bringing money in. I thought you're paying money out for easements or trying to keep people from developing lands. Are you not also having expenditures towards that?
We do. So the money that comes in is based off of our real estate tax bill, which the voters voted on a referendum in 2019, and those revenues are generating about $150,000 a year. So we also participate with the Lehigh County Farmland Preservation to help leverage the dollars that the township has to help preserve the farm that has been identified by Lehigh County and put on their ranking system.
And just ballpark, I'm just trying to do math in my head. Do you know roughly what's spent per year on preserving these types of lands?
So for North Whitehall, our book's probably around $150,000. We pretty much go through it right away. But Lehigh County, I believe, is about $1 million plus. But again, they utilize funds from the state, from the townships, as well as their own pot of money to help kind of put all the funds together to help support the preservation of a farm.
Overall, is $1 million a year, you say, is spent on that?
In Lehigh County, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that clarification. Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you very much for your testimony today.
Appreciate it.
I'd like to welcome Tracy Schott, Director and President of Schott Productions. Thank you for being here today, and please proceed with your testimony when you are ready.
Thank you very much. History projects face challenges among the general public. Because of the way it's been taught, many people think history is irrelevant. Maybe I'm talking to the wrong crowd, but as a result, generations of youth are missing out on the many lessons history teaches us. I'm here to show how we can address those problems by preserving, educating, and engaging everyone in our shared history. Explore Berks is an interactive exhibit celebrating the history of Reading and Berks County. I'm a filmmaker, and you may be wondering, what's a filmmaker doing here, presenting to this committee? And I've wondered that myself. Well, let me tell you. Several years ago, I was commissioned to create a short film on the history of Berks County, From the River. I'm not a historian, so I began this project, like all of my work, with research. I read everything I could get my hands on, and then I reached out to the Berks History Center and many of the 39 historical and heritage societies, sites, and museums in Berks County, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe not only that Berks County had all of these organizations, most underfunded and staffed by volunteers, retired volunteers, but also that by the rich history, culture, and traditions that each of them preserves, and few people are aware of. The result of this research, From the River, is a 35-minute cinematic dash through 350 years, examining the triumphs and tragedies of our shared history with a focus on the heroes, villains, and everyday people who made it happen. Hundreds of people have seen the film to date with an overwhelmingly positive response. Their question consistently has been, how can this film be made accessible to everyone? So I reached out to my friends at Neo-Pangea, a Berks County-based digital media company that has created projects for Disney, the Smithsonian Channel, National Geographic, as well as museums across the country. Their expertise in creating interactive media is an invaluable resource for this project. Explore Berks is a permanent media exhibit designed to engage visitors in history that is inclusive, respectful, and accurate, and will feature an interactive kiosk which allows users to travel through the centuries and dive deeper into the stories of the region, learn about the many historical sites in the county, and take a self-guided tour into the past. The Share Your Story exhibit will prompt visitors to record their own family's immigration history on video, which we will weave with other visitors' stories to show our shared experience as a nation of immigrants. In collaboration with the Reading Film Office, youth will be encouraged to create their own history films and submit to student competitions. The very best of these films will be part of a revolving menu of video offerings at the exhibit. The exhibit will also include artifacts on loan from some of the many historical museums in the region and an interactive calendar to direct visitors to those sites and their festivals, programs, and activities. Above Berks will offer a virtual reality experience, giving visitors the thrill of an exciting drone ride throughout the county and across the seasons. A replica of a mural created From the River will be on site and include augmented reality technology in which visitors can learn more about the people and events featured in the film on their phones. Finally, a large video wall will offer visitors an immersive viewing experience of From the River and other short films created for the exhibit. These displays will be accessible to all visitors and include closed captioning and Spanish versions of the exhibits. Interactive media in museums and public spaces has blossomed into an exciting way to engage, entertain, and educate our communities. This state-of-the-art approach to audience engagement is a critical piece for the sustainability of our historical organizations. However, few of the heritage sites in Berks County have the resources to do this alone. Explore Berks will provide awareness and drive visitors to these important historical treasures. Explore Berks is a true community venture. It will be housed in a donated space in the newly renovated 1909 Berks County Trust Company building in downtown Reading, which was recently added to the National Register of Historic Places. The bank's original vault will be a central location for the exhibit. Berks History Center will partner in this venture by providing administrative support and utilizing the space to expand their community outreach. The Reading Film Office, Neo-Pangea, and my company, Shaw Productions, will provide video content and technology. By funding this exhibit, the technology, the content, and construction, the committee is providing Berks County residents and thousands of visitors to the region with a dynamic celebration of our past that will live well into the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, questions for Ms. Schott? My question is similar to the last presenter who talked about creating digital infrastructure assets. In terms of preservation of these assets, what does that look like in the long term?
So the current grant is meant to preserve all the digital assets for a minimum of 5 years. And then beyond that, the Berks History Center has made a commitment to help see this continue into the future. You know, media is not static. It needs to change all the time. And otherwise, it just becomes like the old stuff, like the old videotapes that you see in kiosks in some, organizations. It's like, if you can't keep it up to date, then it's really not worth having there. So the Berks History Center is also exploring other options to bring that interactive technology to their home base. But this is really a nice start to reach into the community and pull people in who aren't looking for history. There, this facility where it's going to be based is being developed as a food court and office building, and it's adjacent to the Berks County Courthouse and County Services Building. So lots of people are going to travel through there every day, and it's a real opportunity for historical organizations to kind of reach into the community and say, hey, come look at what we do, because it applies to you and it's interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Phillips-Hill, my co-chair, is going to be leaving, so for her final remarks before she heads up.
I just want to thank my co-chair, especially members of this committee, the America250PA Executive Director Coleman. This has been quite a journey. We have traversed across this entire Commonwealth. We have been to every corner of this great state, and I can tell you that we have an incredible history to share, not only with each other as Pennsylvanians, but with the rest of our nation and the world. This great experiment, the United States of America, began here in Pennsylvania, and it has persevered through 250 years with many great challenges, but many great triumphs. And I'm excited to be here for this and to tell our story. I think we can learn so much from the past as we move forward into the future. And our work will continue after this. I will tell you that here today we saw more projects than we will probably be able to fund. And each and every project that has been presented has been exceptional and truly worthy. We're having some tax dollars. We're raising money privately. We are not going to be able to fund everything, and the challenge will be to fund what we can and then work as legislators to assist our constituents in our respective districts to achieve their goals in the future as well. So with that, I just want to say thank you. I'm leaving you in the very able hands of my colleague and co-chair, Representative Solomon, and thank you again.
Thank you, Senator. Next up, we have Lisa Acker-Mulder, Director of the Betsy. Oh, we're skipping. Oh, I'm sorry. Lisa, I'm so excited about your proposal. I can't wait. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you. William Sheeler, Chairman of the Planning Committee for Reading Area Firefighters Museum. William, please come on up and provide your testimony.
Tracy. Representative Solomon, I want to make the comment you said that this was like Shark Tank. A little bit. So we're comfortable with that, though. Reading Area Firefighters Museum. I want to tell you that the Reading Area Firefighters Museum is a totally volunteer organization. We have no paid staff. We have 55-plus people who spend a lot of volunteer time doing our Firefighters Museum. The building was built in 1876. The third story of that building was added in 1895. It is a beautiful, beautiful building. The interior is filled with an amazing collection of artifacts. The building itself has been refurbished from head to toe, except for our infrastructure of the building. I want to give you a little bit of history about the place itself. There were 2 books written on firefighting in Reading, Pennsylvania. Those books, one was written during the Depression in the 1930s by the Public Works Authority, and it details the nature of the Reading Volunteer Firefighter Department, which had 10,000 members in 1930. I'm going to detail some more about it as we move on here. Just a few high points. The first fire company in the city of Reading was started in 1731, 5 years before the Declaration of Independence, so early that the rules of the fire department regarding bringing fire buckets and salvage bags to fires, the fees, the fines for not bringing those items to a fire were actually to be paid in shillings, not American money, obviously, in that point in time, well before the Declaration of Independence. There were 14 separate volunteer fire companies in Reading, serving separate geographic areas. In the 1920s, as I said, there were over 10,000 firefighters as members. It was the largest firefighting department in America. The Liberty Fire Company is the only fire company in the history to be invited en masse to the White House. That was in 1930 during the administration of Calvin Coolidge. The Liberty Fire Company actually toured the country in many respects. When they went to a parade, there were sometimes as many as 300 uniformed individuals. It was amazing. They had their own band. They traveled extensively along the East Coast and brought back many of the commemorative artifacts which were exchanged back in the day between fire companies. I'll go back to a few points in history, if I may. Fewer words can strike fear into the heart of any person than the cry, fire. America began to burn shortly after she was settled. The crackling flames were heard in the earliest settlements, in the huts, in the storehouses, and in the forts that fell victims to the ravages of fire. One cannot tell the story of America without the effect of firefighting on shaping the nation. When William Penn surveyed Philadelphia in 1682, he gave great thought to the dangers of fire as he had witnessed the Great Fire of London in 1666. Many of our founding fathers were engaged in firefighting activities, starting with Benjamin Franklin, organizing the first fire company in 1736. Most of the founding fathers served as volunteer firemen: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Paul Revere, Alexander Hamilton, John Hay, just to mention a few. As a westward expansion took place from Philadelphia, Conrad Weiser was appointed to sell lots in the newly formed town of Reading. Weiser gave great thought to fire prevention in the early planning. It's a very quick 5 minutes, isn't it? I apologize. I apologize. I didn't expect that. Well, let me think here. We meet the EPIC standards that you guys have laid out for museums. The firefight, another aspect of our museum is that there's a large room. There are two large rooms. One is the Liberty Fire Company meeting room. One is another room, which is a fine example. Actually, the furniture in that room was given to us by John Wanamaker. 1776, the centennial celebration in Philadelphia was held, and that was there. I want to close with one quick statement, if I may. If you look at our nation's 250-year history, there may be no other tradition more enduring and deserving of recognition than that of community volunteers working together to protect life and property through the fire service. Our museum in the Liberty Fire Company building in Reading, Pennsylvania is a living tribute to that rich history of common people uniting for the common good. It is our true American history. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you so much, William. Questions?
May I add something quickly?
Okay, sure.
We have the design plans. The ask is $1.4 million. We've been working on this for several years. We have money from the city of Reading to the tune of $1.3 million, I believe, and we're asking for $1.4 million to complete the project. We're also using private funds.
And are the volunteer firefighting associations in the whole region supportive of this proposal?
They are, as well as Senator Judy Schwank. We have letters in there. The firefighters from around the county and the city have been very active in supporting us. The fire companies, the 14 fire companies that I mentioned, many of them have donated materials to the museum. We show the whole history of fire service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Lisa, now, Lisa Acker-Mulder, Director of the Betsy Ross House, Historic Philadelphia.
So thank you for having me. As you said, I'm Lisa Acker-Mulder, Director of the Betsy Ross House. Although I live in Delaware County and work in Philadelphia, I was born in Allentown. My dad worked in Bethlehem for many years. My grandparents lived in Catasauqua, so it's really nice to be home, even if it's just for the day. Founded in 1994 at the direction of former Governor Edward G. Rendell, then Philadelphia's mayor, Historic Philadelphia, Inc.'s mission is to make our nation's history relevant and real through interpretation, interaction, and education, strengthening Greater Philadelphia's role as the destination to experience American history. To serve this mission, HPI operates 3 entities, including Franklin Square, Once Upon a Nation, and the Betsy Ross House. The Betsy Ross House has been open as a public museum since 1898. The 1740 row house is restored to 1776 when Ross is said to have stitched the first American flag. The current interpretation, influenced by primary source materials and recent work of scholars, addresses the controversial origin of the first American flag and highlights Ross's contribution as a patriot and entrepreneur during the American Revolution. The site experience includes access to the historic house furnished with period collections, including items that belong to Betsy Ross, and several immersive exhibits, including the country's only 18th century upholstery shop, where actresses portraying Betsy Ross can be seen each day using 18th century hand-sewing techniques and reproduction 18th century tools and materials to produce curtains, bed hangings, chair cases, flags, and more. In addition to Betsy, visitors are encouraged to interact with other history makers who appear regularly at the Betsy Ross House. These first-person interpreters portray real, diverse people from Philadelphia, presenting historically accurate information to visitors in an educational and entertaining way. Though the Betsy Ross House is one of the most visited historic sites in the nation, it's among the few which emphasize women's history. Most other Revolutionary War era sites primarily share the stories of the men who supported and fought for our country's independence. Rarely do you hear of women's contributions to the war or how the events of the American Revolution impacted them. At the Betsy Ross House, we have the unique opportunity to share how an ordinary, young, working-class tradeswoman's life was affected and convey that although the circumstances and time period were different, the challenges Betsy faced and how she responded to them are very relatable to contemporary audiences. The proposed project will advance efforts to share an engaging interpretation of the real Betsy Ross and women like her who lived in Revolutionary War-era Philadelphia. Currently, the House shares Betsy's entire life story from her birth in Gloucester, New Jersey in 1752 to her death at her daughter's Philadelphia home in 1836. However, she only lived in the Betsy Ross house for 3 years, from 1776 to 1779, moving there shortly after the death of her first husband. Through this project, we intend to narrow the site's focus to that 3-year period in which she rented rooms in the small row house. This was a pivotal time for Betsy as she was attempting to navigate life as a young widow while simultaneously trying to carry on her upholstery business on her own, as her husband was also her business partner. How did she manage to earn enough money to support herself when upholstery work was scarce during the war? What was it like for a patriot living and working in the city as it was occupied by British troops? Stitching the American flag was an act of treason. Did Betsy consider the consequences if she got caught making a rebel flag? Through a new immersive house tour experience, our goal is for visitors to better understand that women also played an integral role in the founding of our nation. We seek to create an experiential learning environment that interprets the lives of middle and working class Americans with a particular focus on women's history, using Ross as a rich example. The Betsy Ross House and a team of advisors will begin work towards the development of a new site-wide interpretive focus. The team consists of Historic Philadelphia staff and board members, as well as historians, exhibit designers, diversity and inclusion consultants, and museum educators. The project will commence with a 2-day on-site meeting of the team in October. In addition to the new interpretation of the site for 2026, this project also requires upgrades to the site's structures by enclosing the breezeway and walkway into the historic house. Currently, upon purchasing their tickets, visitors must exit a climate-controlled building to an outdoor breezeway and adjacent pathway to enter the historic house. Enclosing these spaces would provide an indoor area of transition between the ticketing area and the first floor entrance of the historic house. The enclosure would provide 3 critical functions. 1, create more indoor spaces for interpretation and exhibitions. Currently, the house exhibition space at the Betsy Ross House is extremely limited. 2, aid in the preservation of the artifacts housed inside the Betsy Ross House. It's impossible to maintain a steady, preservation-friendly 70-degree temperature and 50% relative humidity in a furnished historic house during our busiest months when hundreds of visitors enter and exit the building. This improvement would greatly reduce the amount of wintertime cold and dry air and summertime hot and humid air entering the house. And third, in the last 3 years, the Betsy Ross House has completed several ADA accessibility upgrades, including regrading and repositioning brick pavers to eliminate bumps caused by tree roots, the removal of steps leading into the historic house, and the installation of hand railings at the sloped areas of the property. The enclosure of the outdoor breezeway and adjacent walkway would make the pathway into the house more comfortable and safer for everyone, but especially for people with disabilities, as they would be shielded from the elements on days of rain, snow, and ice as they make their way into the historic house. As we prepare for the influx of visitors to the city in 2026, we feel that our project would create a more meaningful, impactful, welcoming, and inclusive experience for those who choose to visit the house. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Tom Petrucci, Township Manager, South Whitehall Township. Tom, if you want to come up and please provide your testimony. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Petrucci. I'm the Township Manager for South Whitehall Township, which is located in Lehigh County. South Whitehall is a first-class township located in the center of the county, adjacent to the city of Allentown, and can often be described as a transitional zone between the urban fringe of the city and the rural character of northwestern Lehigh County. Our township currently has about 21,000 residents, but the number is projected to increase steadily over the next 20 years. Thank you for this opportunity to review this exciting project. South Whitehall is requesting level 4 funding to develop a community park that preserves and showcases important historic, cultural, and ecological elements of South Whitehall and the surrounding area. The park is referred to as Kohler Ridge Park, and the land was acquired by the township in 2018 and currently sits as 26 acres as undeveloped open space. Over the past several years, the township has worked with Omne Studio, which is a local landscape architecture firm, and their team of consultants to prepare a master site plan for the park.
The goal for the plan was to develop a vision that creates a unique user experience that is not currently offered in our community, or one could argue the region. The master site plan went through an extensive and innovative public engagement process, inviting all voices in the community to inform the design. Many of the unique ideas and concepts are highlighted in the master site plan and have been memorialized in proposed elements for this park. The vision for Kohler Ridge Park is to create a passive, nature-based park experience that highlights the region's history, heritage, and natural environment. This open space has unique natural and historic features that, when shared together, tell the collective story of how this region of Lehigh County came to be settled. Starting with the Lenape tribes that first came to the Lehigh Valley, this park demonstrates the natural features and important ecological assets that made this land first inhabitable. The ecological focus of the park will provide visitors a closer connection to nature and the people that first settled and cultivated this land long before it was officially governed. The area surrounding the Jordan Creek, locally referred to as the Jordan Valley, contains historically significant homes, barns, structures, and landscapes. Most of these assets include Revolutionary War-era homes and farms that are privately owned and cut off from the public. The Kohler Ridge Park plan proposes an overlook lope at the top of the ridge, which would allow a panoramic view of the Jordan Valley and many of the historic assets that are still in place. This overlook will help to describe the historic landscape through interpretive signage and a bird's eye view of the valley and the landscape looking north to the Blue Mountain and the Kittatinny Ridge. This park also threads the connection to the township's industrial heritage by highlighting features of a former shale quarry and brick manufacturing plant that occupied this site in the late 1800s. Remnants of the former Allentown Brick Company are still present and will be showcased with art sculptures and interpretive signage. These functional art pieces have the potential to evoke creative thought while still teaching the functionality of this former industrial site. The purpose of this park is to create a welcoming connection with nature, history, and the community. Several of the proposed elements include a learning grove, eco-barn, and forest garden, and they're designed to be gathering places for individuals to interact and potentially to be used for small-scale programming. The focus on community space was an important element of the surrounding neighborhoods. The park will also incorporate aspects of local agriculture, as recommended by the township's agricultural preservation plan. This could include small community-supported agriculture, community gardens, or a dedicated space for a farmer's market. Though this park contains more wild and natural features than most other parks in the township, it has the potential to serve as a community focal point through these agricultural elements. The Kohler Ridge Master Site Plan was developed in late 2022 and lays out 10 phases of development. Each phase has a proposed scope of work and estimated costs associated with its development or construction. To build out all the phases, it would take about $3.5 million through the America250 program, and the intent would be to construct all 10 phases over the next few years in accordance with the timeline of 2026. Specifically, the funding will be used to pay for final engineering, permitting, if applicable, and construction and/or materials costs to develop the phases as outlined in the plan. It is important to note that the master plan was conceptual in nature and that the final design is subject to some changes. South Whitehall Township is grateful for this opportunity to speak to you all today and share our vision to create a unique community asset that will forever memorialize our region's history, heritage, and connection to the natural environment.
Thank you so much. Questions, comments? By 2026, how much of the park do you think can be completed?
We anticipate being able to build out all phases.
Oh, really? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mayor Michael Harrico, Mayor of Whitehall Township, and Jeff Warren, Whitehall Commissioner, also of Whitehall Township. Thank you. Did I, Mayor, get your name? Did I butcher it, or I got it?
Not too badly.
Slightly,
My mother
slightly.
would have forgiven you.
Okay. When you guys are ready, please.
I am Mike Harrico. I'm the mayor of Whitehall in Lehigh County, and I'm joined here today by Jeff Warren of the Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners. I want to begin by thanking the committee members and the staff for the opportunity to testify here today about the ongoing restoration of the historic Mickley Pryden Farm. The township acquired the Mickley Pride and Farm in 2013 through the support of the Lehigh County Green Future Fund and the Land and Water Conservation Fund through the National Park Service, and administered by Pennsylvania DCNR. Given the historic significance of the property, we feel strongly that the restoration of the Mickley Pride and Farm is a unique opportunity to achieve historic preservation goals while at the same time supporting community and economic development through enhanced heritage tourism. Our location at the center of the Lehigh Valley at the intersection of US 22 and MacArthur Road corridor, which hosts upwards of 45,000 vehicles a day, has a high visibility and would be a great venue to promote America250PA celebration and host events welcoming visitors to celebrate local connections to American history. Jeff, you're on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Herrickle and the committee. The Mickley Pride and Farm is a 12-acre tract of land located along the cold water fishery of the Copley Creek in Whitehall Township. The property dates back to 1761 when it became the homestead of John Jacob Mickley Sr. and his family. In 1777, under orders of the Continental Army Colonel Benjamin Flowers, Jacob Mickley Sr. and his 11-year-old son, John Jr., hauled the Liberty Bell from Independence Hall to Philadelphia through British lines in Bethlehem. The Liberty Bell was later hauled to an eventual hiding spot in the Zion's Reformed Church in Allentown, where it remained hidden for nearly a year. Mickley's effort in saving the Liberty Bell from near certain destruction were memorialized in 1907 by the General Assembly of Pennsylvania on the auspices of the Pennsylvania Daughters of the American Revolution. The bronze plaque commissioned by the General Assembly is on display today at the Iron Fence on the Zion's Reformed Church, better known as the Liberty Bell Church. Today, the historic Mickley farmstead consists of a 1762 farmhouse, which was believed to be the first structure on the property and served as living quarters for Mickley and his family, an 1835 Federal-style farmhouse, and the remaining stone foundation walls of a historic 40 by 62 bank barn that is located at the site. The property borders along the 500 feet of the Copley Creek and is adjacent to the Ironton Rail Trail, a 9.2-mile trail that connects 12 parks, 3 municipalities, and one of the most heavily utilized recreation trails in Lehigh Valley. Since acquiring the property in 2013, the township has made various improvements aimed at preserving the farmhouse, ecologically restoring the riparian buffer along the Copley Creek, and upcoming plans called for the exterior and interior restoration of the 1835 farmhouse to allow it to be utilized for the community meetings, other gatherings, as well as a staging location for the community garden currently located on the property, which benefits two communities, Whitehall Copley and the Hunger Initiative and Food Pantry. These improvements have been funded through an array of sources, including township funds, Commonwealth Finance Authority local share account, Lehigh Northampton counties, and Lehigh County Community Development Block Grant funding. The township and its partners are now planning the next phase of improvements, which are subject to funding request to the Infrastructure Improvement Projects Committee, and they include reconstructing the historic barn that is located at the site, reusing much of the existing stone foundation walls of the historic barn as feasible, constructing a 40 by 18-foot lean-to on the eastern end of the barn, matching the aesthetics of the main barn, constructing a crushed stone parking lot to improve accessibilities to both the property, installing a covered porch and ADA accessibility ramp to provide access for ADA to 1835 farmhouse, constructing a 1,100-foot crushed stone pathway that provides direct access to the Ironton Rail Trail, and installing underground utilities. Upon completion of the proposed improvements, the Mickley Pride and Farm will be able to host community meetings, educational programs focused on environmental sustainability and interpreting the historic significance of the property and its role in the Revolutionary history, seminars, workshop, and other public gatherings. Our goal is to have the barn and the 1835 farmhouse accessible to the public to host events to promote the America250 celebration and to memorialize the local connection to the Liberty Bell and the American Revolution. Just to give you an example of Several books have been written about the Mickley Pride and Farm and the Liberty Bell Adventures, and there are at least 3 children books that are written. And we'd like to not only promote history to adults, but also to connect with the students in our area, and so they can learn a little about American history and local history as it pertains to the Liberty Bell Adventure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen. Questions or comments? Representative Benninghoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Another beautiful piece of property. We've had many of these throughout the testimonies come before us, and you know, my favorite house is the farmhouse next to me, and the favorite house for you is the farmhouse next to you. When I look at this and listen to some of your proposal, the only thing that concerns me is I don't see where any revenue is being generated. I think it's very gracious to want to be able to open this up for community meetings and different groups wanting to come in. Building a barn's not cheap these days. And by disclaimer, I find old houses and I redo them for my own enjoyment, but it's getting very costly. I mean, PVC's jumped up 10 times what it was recently, plywood, everything else. I guess my question overall is, most of what you're talking about funding sources are some public nature somewhere. So where does the money come from to sustain these types of things later on? I mean, a barn's a barn. I don't care if it's a new barn or a 100-year-old barn. They're expensive to take care of, and they just seem to always need repairs. And I don't know if it's a large mass or whatever, but the wind's hard on them. Have you thought about that for the future?
Yeah, well, we have funding for phase 1 and 2 are completed. We have funding for phase 3 that hasn't been implemented yet. Our township budget, we do have a recreation budget that does capital improvements every year. We do have other historic properties that we do maintain with that budget. We have a recreation commission that has over $400,000 that's developer money that goes into account that we can apply for grants for certain projects, and a committee decide who gets that money. So there's not an endless stream of money, but this property it is close to it's a stone throw from our retail corridor.
Right.
45,000 vehicles a day. It does lend itself to historic tourism. The Ironton Rail Trail brings in over 300 visitors a year, and that's not even a full accounting of all the people that bike there. There's people that they trail hop. They come, and there's a lot of history along that trail, including the Mickley Pride and Farm and the history of the Cement Museum. And this property has great benefit for the community garden that serves the hunger initiative. That got started right before the pandemic, and it took off, and there's a number of volunteers that support that, and the need hasn't gone away. So, you know, this barn would also serve the lower part of that barn could serve the growth of that initiative as well.
I guess the last part of this, is there any of these that would be up and ready by 2026?
Yes, we're funded up to phase 3. This would be phase 4. Phase 1 is complete, which was the roof, protecting the building envelope. Phase 2 and 3 are the exterior and interiors, the exterior of both buildings and the interior of the 1835 farmhouse. Those are funded. I expect us to preparing bid spec this fall and going out to bid in the spring, and hopefully construction next year. And so, yes, if this grant opportunity is awarded, say like by year's end, we have budgetary numbers from at least 2 contractors to proceed with the project. We would have to put a bid spec together and put it out on the street, and hopefully that could be let sometime next year.
Senator Boscola.
Thank you both for being here, obviously. You know, to get on the record, I represented Whitehall Township for about 24 years until they redistricted me out of there, which I'm very bitter about to this day, except that a qualified new senator has taken over. Anyway. Anyway, but the reason I said that is because I did support this project in the past with state dollars, and we went to various programs to get it through its phases. So I am committed, even though I am not your senator, moving forward with Senator Miller to make sure that this project gets to fruition. We need to complete this project, and you will have my 110%, if 10% above 100 is even possible. So thank you very much for being here. You have a great advocate in me, and Senator Miller, moving forward.
Thank you for your time and all your support, and you have our contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. A lot of effort's been put into this project this far. Thank you.
Next, we have Nathaniel Guest, Executive Director, Colebrookdale Railroad Preservation Trust. Nathaniel, please come up and provide your testimony.
Dear esteemed committee members, thank you for your time this afternoon. On behalf of the family of Colebrookdale Railroad volunteers and supporters, it's an honor to be here, so thank you very much. No single machine has influenced the course of the American democracy more than the steam locomotive, a uniquely American and largely Pennsylvania creation uniting the continent, powering the Industrial Revolution, and removing barriers of space and time. The locomotive opened up our vast natural resources, enabled the growth of urban centers of power, thought, and innovation, and built wealth that gave rise to the middle class and institutions such as the one that we find ourselves in today. It looms large in the broad themes of our national story. The locomotive meant the connections between people and places were, for the first time in all of human existence, no longer limited to the endurance of a horsebound rider. Within just 2 generations of its founding, the young American nation harnessed to the steam locomotive, charged into its otherwise unlikely place as the most powerful nation in the world. Where we're from, Pennsylvania, produced more steam locomotives than any other place on the globe, exporting them all around the world. The railroad that I represent runs through the oldest iron-making valley in North America, the origin of Pennsylvania's iron industry, so important to the American Revolution, and also a place where locomotive steel was made. No doubt many of the people in this room, at least those who still remain, have ancestors who worked in the factories that built locomotives, produced the steel that made them, or operated them in the industries that they enabled. Because of the steam locomotive's place in our history as Americans and as Pennsylvanians, I'm proud to seek your support of a project to restore a classic Pennsylvania-built steam locomotive right here in the Commonwealth, and you can see the locomotive pictured here. The engine itself is almost as big as the picture of it here. So, because of this act of restoration, I think we have an opportunity to burnish an ironclad reputation that was formed when Pennsylvania earned its place as the keystone in the arch of American progress. Equally importantly, it will provide jobs and trade skills that will help break a low-skill, low-wage driven cycle of poverty in my post-industrial hometown, also a steel town. In partnership with the famous Strasburg Railroad in Lancaster County, we propose to restore this locomotive, which was constructed in Pittsburgh in 1910 and rebuilt in 1930 using parts from Philadelphia. After a long and storied career, we brought the locomotive back to the state of its birth, Pennsylvania, in 2021 in hopes of restoring it. The project that I'm proposing will create 60 jobs and $2 million of economic impact during its implementation, and 15 jobs and $4 million of economic impact in perpetuity each year thereafter. This impact is important not just because of the numbers themselves, but also because that impact will benefit one of the poorest qualified census tracts in the United States, located right here in Pennsylvania. The project will incorporate our equity and empowerment-based workforce development program, and as such, the project will provide a path for good-paying jobs to vulnerable populations, including single mothers, formerly incarcerated persons, persons with disabilities, formerly homeless persons, veterans, and English language learners. The locomotive will be a significant boost to tourism. If any of you have ever been to a place in Pennsylvania where a locomotive is visiting, a steam locomotive is visiting, you'll see the crowd that gathers. They draw people from all over the country. Tourism is, of course, Pennsylvania's second largest industry and its fastest growing industry, and we believe this locomotive will be a significant boost to it. It's going to be the central character of our Department of Education approved curriculum that we offer free of charge to Pennsylvania school children. That curriculum is entitled Rails of Revolution: The American Industrial and Environmental Revolutions in Pennsylvania. It tells the story about how our state was at the forefront of these important revolutions in American history. Lastly, the locomotive is a real and visceral connection to that iron heritage that unites us all as citizens of the Keystone State. The project that I propose will really be a capstone project for our grassroots community and economic development project. Ours is a partnership between Berks and Montgomery counties, the redevelopment authorities of both counties, the state, HUD, local government, donors and volunteers, and together our entities have raised over $100 million to breathe new life into the post-industrial economies of the communities that line our railroad tracks. Our railroad brings visitors to Pennsylvania from all over the world and millions of dollars into the regional economy. We received the highest recognition from the White House for a preservation project, accolades from the George H.W. Bush Foundation, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the National Association of Counties, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and in 2020, USA Today named us the #2 heritage railroad in the North America. I'm proposing a restoration of a beautiful piece of Pennsylvania craftsmanship, and I think it provides a unique opportunity to celebrate the 250th birthday of our nation, to recognize the superlative strength of the iron and steel industry that undergirds our heritage as Pennsylvanians, and to make a meaningful and powerful impact to the lives of our people. And I hope that we can join together to seize that opportunity. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments? Representative Benninghoff.
The question is, do you find this thing bridging in different multiple generations and more importantly successive generations? Do young people still find fascination? I thought your introduction, your narrative was superb, and I think people, to me it does. It talks about how America really kind of grew and it really propelled us across the world. And to me, the mechanics of these things are phenomenal.
So the happiest memories I have as a child were going to the tourist railroads that we have here in Pennsylvania and standing in front of the steam locomotive with my grandfather, and that's what got me into this career path. And there was a time when I wondered whether or not future me's would still be as enchanted by these creations as I was as a little boy.
Right.
And certainly there's this concern that when we live in an increasingly virtual world, that these bits of technology that are entirely real, entirely visceral, entirely external, would become so foreign they would be of disinterest. And what we're finding is that's exactly opposite of what's happening, that these things are so different. They're essentially like mechanical dinosaurs, and yet they're alive. If you've ever stood next to one and you can smell the smell of the hot oil and the coal smoke, and you can hear the steam, it is really quite spectacular. And I think if any one single machine could represent that movement that was propelling Pennsylvania forward during that time when we were the industrial powerhouse, truly the keystone of the American states, this is it.
And lastly, to that more commentary, my father worked at a metal manufacturing. It was mostly predominantly brass and copper. And they had different plants, and he told us about it. I never went to see it until I was older, but I remember him talking about, well, today I have to go over here, and I got to go to low melt, and then I got to go to tool and die. Well, tool and die never meant a thing to me until I got older and realized that if those guys needed a tool, and they need to reach around here with a wrench to get to it, they cut one out of steel, and they filed it off, they shaped it, and they set it to the size that they needed. If they needed a die to cut a thread on something they didn't have, they made it. And so these, to me, are great testimonies of the ingenuity of Americans. I don't know how they built them. To this day, I get enough trouble putting the wheels back on my sweeper. And it just blows my mind. Because every one of those pieces has got to work. And you only need one rod to disconnect, and the whole thing's off the track.
Right.
So it's an interesting and important investment, I think, to learn from the past. Because we are losing that. In some ways, I think, in the digital age, people don't care how things are made. And we need to remind them, somebody's making something every day to make sure your toys are working.
Right. They certainly embody a can-do spirit that we'd like to remind future generations of.
Absolutely.
It's how we got here, and it's how we're going to, a spirit that we're going to need to go from where we're at to where we need to be.
And the tonnage they can move. I live in a limestone area, so we round figures say for every rail car that's hauling stone, that's 5 dual axle diesels or dump trucks that are off the road, and that's phenomenal power.
Railroads are a critical piece of the environmental answer that we're searching for, and yet I listened to a news article on NPR last night that talked about how everyone's holding out hope for electric-driven trucks. Well, that's wonderful, except the fact that the answer is already here.
Exactly.
Just need to use it.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Alicia Miller-Carner, Deputy Director, Economic Development of Bethlehem. Alicia, please come up and provide your testimony.
And then there were two, right? So thank you so much for sticking it out with us today on a long series of hearings. I really appreciate it. I'm Alicia Miller-Carner. I'm with the City of Bethlehem. And on behalf of Mayor Reynolds, I welcome you to the city and hope that you've enjoyed your time here today. On Christmas Eve in 1741, Bethlehem was founded by members of the Moravian Church. So immediately they went to work building several buildings that still stand today, including the 1758 Sun Inn. This inn is located in Bethlehem's historic Main Street, and it provided accommodations to many notable travelers over its 200-year history, including George and Martha Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, and the list goes on. It served as a meeting place for the Continental Congress while moving from Philadelphia to York in September of 1777. And all around the Sun Inn, including where the courtyard sits today, there were hundreds of military wagons and thousands of Army troops camped during the war. Over the years, following the Revolutionary War, the Sun Inn courtyard has been home to many additional uses, including stables and a public market. And today, it's a small park and a popular space for activities. The Sun Inn courtyard is tucked behind our historic Main Street, and it offers an oasis of greenery in an otherwise urban downtown. Because of its location, it sees a tremendous amount of activity at all times of the year, including live music, outdoor dining, passive recreation, and activities associated with Bethlehem's holidays and many festivals, including Music Fest, one of our largest festival. Although the site is functional, its 1970s design is outdated and its physical condition has declined over the decades. It makes the space less attractive and appealing than it could be with a thoughtful and creative renovation project. Over the years, there have been many conversations around the redesign of the park. Considerations including public seating, performance space, greenery, and community access are important, and they're necessary elements to balance the look and the functionality of the park. So what you see before you is an inspirational conceptual design developed by Simone Collins Landscape Architecture for the land owned by the Sun Inn Preservation Association, the City of Bethlehem, and the Bethlehem Redevelopment Authority. They're all landowners and partners on this project. This conceptual design includes a substantial amount of usable space for all the activities I mentioned, but also accommodates practical challenges such as trash, delivery access, and building accessibility. There are two critical reasons why the time is right for the development of this park. These reasons include the announcement earlier this year that the nearby Moravian sites in Bethlehem were submitted for our nation's first transnational World Heritage designation, and the commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. By investing in this public space, we can transform the area into an inviting and accessible urban park that helps to build community, support local businesses, and restore pride in this area that we recognize as central to our history and our connection to the founding of the nation. This project can also spark new or renewed excitement and interest in the historical importance of the Sun Inn, the courtyard, and Bethlehem broadly, providing helpful reminders of the power we all hold to write our own history and leave a lasting impact on our communities for generations to come. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. we can ding anyway, just if you want. We don't want to make you feel left out.
I'm aware of how long you've been sitting here.
You know what? Alicia used to work with me. She was one of my
10 years?
legislative aides, and she did an excellent job. So she probably knows by now that
I read those earlier body language,
keep it
the
moving,
signs.
Right? No,
I get it.
I just for the record, look. The Sun Inn is significant to our history. You saw it, hosting Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Samuel Adams, but even General Lafayette recuperated from, at the inn from his injuries that he received during the war. But the Sun Inn and the courtyard, they're located right in the heart of downtown Bethlehem. And I can see no better place, to host and celebrate the 250th. But the inn does need upgrades to maintain its just historic beauty. And so I'm going to advocate for it like no other.
Thank you, Senator. Others? You got a little something? Go ahead. Oh, wow. Had to happen. Had to happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last up, never least, Councilwoman Terry Sorg McManamon, Emmaus, Borough of Emmaus.
Thank you all for staying. It's humbling. I have to commend you on your stick-to-itiveness. These months, I've been watching some of the videos. Humbling to be here with. You know what? I don't know. Connor's the one that turned me on to them, so I don't know what I. So, good afternoon, Co-Chair Representative Solomon, Senator Biscola, and members of the committee. My name is Terry Sorg McManaman, Councilwoman, Borough of Emmaus, and I chair the borough's Community Relations Planning and Development Committee. It is an honor and privilege to share the borough's plan for a legacy project renovation of one of our several historic sites. The people of Emmaus, in partnership with the borough, own and share in the administration of 3 historic house museums: the Shelter House, built in 1734, Knaus Homestead, built in 1777, and 1803 House, built in 1803. The sites preserve our founding's history, rich heritage, and historic value. Our historic house museums have become a symbol and beacon of hope and opportunity for the borough and the Lehigh Valley we call home. To bring tourists to the Emmaus area, these sites collaborate with each other and with our local libraries, historical societies, Original Moravian Church, and Lehigh Valley Chambers, as well as partnering with broader Lehigh and Northampton County historical groups, sites, and resources. In anticipation of future events and America250PA celebrations, the Emmaus Borough Historic Sites are working together to bring a special Emmaus Heritage Festival celebrating our founders and America250 event, which will showcase the beautiful properties once owned by founding fathers and leadership of a unique Moravian community, and commemorates the region's defining periods around our historic sites and our nation's history. We are dressing our homes and continue to address some of the infrastructure issues that are part of the aging of such valuable spaces. We have identified areas and are working on restoration of the 1803 house, the project I am highlighting today. Cost estimates for a new roof, doors, windows, and shutters, soffits and fascia, and kitchen porch. The overall cost of construction and administrative expenses is $294,627. The 1803 house is significant to the history of our community, as it was built by Jacob Ehrenhardt Sr., who was one of the founders of Emmaus. Jacob, a Revolutionary War soldier, built this federal-style house with his family. He saw our community grow from 92 residents in 1804 to about 130 at the time of his death in 1825. Today, we have over 600 residents in our community. Numerous members of his family line continue to live in our community, and many others have visited the home in recent past, including NASCAR driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. Consideration of funds through America250 will last long after this particular celebration and will enable us to stand united, inviting visitors and enhancing tourism through our regional partners throughout the years. Visitors will continue to learn and enjoy the history and culture of our community, not only as it relates to our nation's 250th anniversary, but for our own future generations when they tour Emmaus's historic house museums. With our collaborative efforts stands a wealth of knowledge, community involvement, a sincere interest in preserving Emmaus's rich history, and a strong desire to help educate all those who live, work, and play in not only Emmaus, the Lehigh Valley, our region, and the state of Pennsylvania. Financial support is an important part in preserving these properties. The borough relies on and encourages the continuing development of these historic sites. The 1803 project highlights include a new roof. The current slate roof is not the original type of roof to the building, as it should be cedar shake shingle. The slate has caused the entire structure of the roof to sag, since the beams are not sturdy enough to properly support the weight of the roof. The new roof will be red cedar shake shingles. In addition, the doors, windows, and shutters are in need of significant repairs. 5 shutters are rotted and framework needs to be replaced. The soffits and fascia on the House Museum are also rotting and need to be repaired and repainted. Lastly, the kitchen porch is in need of significant repairs. The current steel posts will be replaced with wood columns and will be placed below the frost line. 3 rafters need to be replaced and pavers will be placed on the slab area. The preservation of this home is key to preserving the history of our community as well as drawing tourism to our wonderful town. I look forward to answering any questions. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support for all of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Senator.
This is another area I used to represent and now don't anymore. That's all I'm going to say. No, I'm kidding. I'm not bitter on this one, though. No, I am. Look, you have a beautiful, quaint community, and I've been honored to represent it. I'll bat for this project because I'll tell you what, you'll attract so many residents and outside individuals to come into the. I've seen it before. You know, I come to Emmaus, I see what you do as a community. You all do collaborate together. It's a beautiful, beautiful community, and I think that celebration will be wonderful there.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Oh, I knew you'd have one. I was waiting for your question. I had a long time to wait.
Well, actually, I was impressed because you actually answered my one question. I'm thinking, why in the world would they take that slate off to put cedar shingles on? I used to put cedar shingle roofs on, and they're an interesting pattern of weaving. But that said, what I wanted to say to you is don't dispose of the slate or find someone else to rebuy them because they're very valuable.
Yes.
And might be some money for your restoration project. My only question, Mr. Chair, we'll bring you out on a construction site someday to show you how to do some of this stuff.
You could give him the slate.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of value in that. But anyhow, it's probably also made here in Pennsylvania, by the way. Before I was really interrupted, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, is this something you see being able to get done by 2026?
Yes.
In its entirety?
Yes.
Okay. That's important as we value these different projects and weigh their significance.
Yes, thank you.
That's a beautiful building. You've got so many beautiful houses down here. I could remodel till I died.
Please come and see us.
I look forward to it. I've kept the brochures. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you to everyone. Any closing remarks from anyone here? Now the hard work begins. We're going to put together an omnibus proposal, pick the projects that we want to try and get funded, and then our hope is to have a letter signed by all 253 members of the legislature, senators, representatives supporting this effort. We hope to get that done by the end of the year. Thank you all so much.